I 27M discovered my wife's 30F family was behind my vicious cyberbullying attack. My wife knew, but she hid it for years. How do I move past this? My 27M marriage is in a really bad spot after a deep breach of trust. How to recover or how to trust my wife 30F again. For some context, we've been together 7 years and married 5. We have a child 2M. We met at a con. I thought her cosplay was amazing, struck up a conversation, and the rest is history. She's the most loving, unselfish, and decent person I've ever met. Our relationship was never without its challenges. Our biggest obstacle was her family. My presence was unwelcome. They're very close-knit, and if one doesn't accept you, then you're not getting far. There are a few family members who broke away from the pack, but no one hardly acknowledges them. They're no contact and black sheep. I didn't know how my wife's family was, but I did know family was extremely important to her. Her whole upbringing was based on family. So I tried everything in my power to make it work. They didn't really put up with me until our son. Between our wedding planning to shortly before the wedding, I was the target of some relentless and vicious cyberbullying. It got personal. Fake bad reviews polluted my business profile too. It cost me some potential clients. I didn't know where it came from or why. I couldn't find a solution. I'd report, but it'd take a while for anything to be done, or there'd be more accounts coming out for another round. The whole thing impacted my life and my mental health. It took a toll. My wife was incredibly supportive. She was my rock and my best friend. I loved her even more for her care and how she held me down. Then the trolling and everything stopped. I wanted nothing more than to move on. I put it all behind me until the other day my wife confessed that her family was behind the harassment. I didn't believe her at first, but she was serious and showed me proof in their family group chat. It felt like I was right back there again. They were gloating and justifying themselves. Saying stuff like, some people gotta learn the hard way, and, if he wants to join the fold, here's his initiation. I knew I wasn't their favorite person, but I never realized they hated me and would go to such extremes. I asked my wife when she found out and if she was a part of it. She swore she wasn't and that she'd never do that to me. She claimed she didn't initially know it was her family until a few months before our wedding. One of my SIL's 28F left a profile up on her phone, and my wife saw it. She confronted her family and made them stop. I asked why she was telling me everything now. She said it was weighing on her, and she opened up to her eldest sister 35F, one of the family's black sheep. She threatened to tell me the truth if my wife didn't. Nothing my wife said made it better. She knew for years what her family did and hid it from me. She kept everything quiet. It hurts more coming from her because she knew firsthand my pain. I was pretty numb. My wife was anxious and kept pushing for me to say something. I told her there wasn't anything she could say right now that would make it okay. What she did was no better than her family. They made my life hell, and her first instinct was to cover for them. She started crying and begged me to understand. She said it wasn't like that, and she was trying to make things right with as little damage as possible and mend relationships. I wasn't very receptive to her. She wasn't reaching me. I couldn't help her or myself. I told her I needed some time to clear my head. She was against it. She said we could work through this together, but I was firm on space. Space isn't a request she's respected. I'm really trying to understand her side. I'm trying to move past it, but I feel so betrayed. I trusted her more than anyone. I'm my most vulnerable with her. I kept opening up to her about the incident even after she knew the truth. She encouraged me to let it go and not allow it to have any claim on me. I thought she had my best interest in mind. Now I just see it as her attempt to protect her family yet again. I haven't confronted anyone involved. I don't think they're worth it. But I've made it clear they're no longer allowed to see our son until further notice. Now I'm getting texts about how I'm depriving my child of grandparents and aunts over past family spats. One of the hardest parts is the distance from my wife. She's my best friend and partner in every way. Now we're mostly only communicating about our son and other household necessities. She's hurt by my rejection, and she's been crying often. If I'm being unfair to her. I hate all of this. I want to make our marriage work, but I'm questioning our relationship up to now. I'm just really lost. I need an outside perspective. How do I navigate this situation and move forward for my marriage and myself? TLDR, my marriage is in a bad spot. How to trust my wife again. I was the target of some relentless and vicious cyberbullying for months. It impacted my life and my mental health. I put it behind me until my wife confessed that her family was the culprit. She showed me proof in their group chat. I knew I wasn't their favorite person, but I never realized they hated me. My wife swears she didn't initially know and that she made them stop. But she still hid it for years. She begged me to understand and said that she was trying to make things right for us and our son. I asked for space to clear my head. She hasn't exactly respected that request. I'm really trying to move past it, but I feel so betrayed by her. Ick if I'm being unfair. I want to make our marriage work, but I'm questioning everything. How do I navigate this situation and move forward for my marriage and myself? Comments. Commenter 1. I think what is bothering me most is that your wife is still not getting it. She doesn't understand how vile her family is, and if they did it once, they could do it again. They took your money, your peace of mind, your confidence. Even though she stopped it, she never told you, leaving you to wonder why and who, and, past family spats. It's not like this was a little tiff and they apologized and you won't let it go. I'd suggest therapy for you both, and I don't even know. At the very least, you'll learn how to co-parent together if you can't save the marriage. Maybe a therapist can get her to see how huge this is. Reply, it gets like my wife's not getting where I'm coming from or just doesn't want to go there. Her family never even apologized. They're making it out like I'm holding grudges. Commenter 2. Also realize she didn't tell you because she wanted to. She only told you because someone else threatened to tell you and she wanted to control exactly what was said. If I were you, I'd want to speak to the other person who knew, i.e. the black sheep. It's such a huge breach of trust. She aided her relatives in trying to destroy your livelihood and self-worth. I can't see any reason why you'd want to remain married to someone who clearly doesn't value you or really love you and has demonstrated she loves and places her family above you. Commenter 3. Absolutely. I'd be getting the perspectives from all the black sheep at this point. I suspect that OP has no idea how deep this family's long history of toxicity goes. Commenter 4. She let them hurt you. You were hurt because her family is messed up. Then she covered it up, and did not defend you or seek justice. Now, you're stuck because you're married and you have a child together. She thinks now that she's been honest, which she was forced to do by a black sheep sister who is the only one who has any morals. Her conscience is clear and you have to just let it go. Don't. If she don't respect your request for space, another boundary she is bulldozing, then move out. I'd be gone, this won't get better. You can't trust her, and she'll always cover for them. She isn't your partner. Commenter 5. Exactly. If her sister had not forced the issue, you still wouldn't know. Your wife would have been happy with it never coming up. That's reasons enough for me to be done. No concern for you, only with how it would and is affecting her. Commenter 6. So her idea of making things right is to lie to you for years, providing cover for the awful, awful people who did this to you? Any decent partner would cut that family off without a backward glance. I am so sorry, OP, you must be reeling. Reply, she said she thought she was protecting me and that she handled the situation with her family. I just don't see anything she did as for my benefit. I see it more as she was protecting her family yet again before anything else. Commenter 7. Is she going to cut off her family now? Reply, she hasn't said anything about that. She's been too flustered with me asking for some space. No solutions have been offered. Commenter 8. I couldn't imagine trying to rebuild after that level of betrayal. Has anyone tried to make amends? Take ownership of their actions? She can make excuses all she wants, but it doesn't sound like she's taking accountability. I don't know if I would even be open to continuing. I'd be having a heart-to-heart with my lawyer to see what custody arrangements would look like. Reply, there's been no apology of any kind or acknowledging what they did. They're making it out like I'm depriving them from my son over a minor dispute. Update. Thank you to everyone who reached out. I 27M wasn't able to reply to everyone, but it was appreciated. It solidified my wake-up call and helped me see I wasn't overthinking. I wanted to give an update. Earlier this week, my wife 30F and I were able to regroup and hash stuff out. I was glad I took the space I did because even though this situation is still hurtful and feels like a massive betrayal, I was in a better position to talk. My wife thought I was calling it quits, but I told her we were at a crossroads and needed to talk things out. She apologized for what her family did and her role in it. She said she never intended to hurt me. She had convinced herself she was protecting me from more pain. She realizes now she was largely protecting herself. She admitted she was afraid of telling me the truth because she thought it wouldn't just end the wedding but that I'd end the relationship. She lost other relationships and friendships over her family. She didn't want to lose me too. Over the years, she wanted to tell me but kept talking herself out of it, and then the cover-up kept getting bigger, and she didn't know how to confess. I told her I didn't agree with her choices, and I wished she had more trust in me and our relationship. I meant it too. I wouldn't have just ditched her. She asked where do we go from here and promised no matter the outcome, there wouldn't be any more secrets between us. I told her I wanted to work on our marriage, but things needed to change. We couldn't survive with her family looming, and I didn't want our son exposed to them. She asked what I needed of her. I was never big on ultimatums, and I don't really consider this as one, but I was adamant that any path of us moving forward together would mean radical boundaries with her family. She was honest that the thought of making this big of a move against her family was scary but said if it's between them and our son 2M, then she chooses us. Her agreement was major for me because I really didn't know where she'd land if she had to choose. I never wanted to put her in that position, but after everything her family did, I feel there was no other way. The reason I have hope that my wife is being for real is because she sent a text to their group chat stating to stop blowing up my phone and that the no access to our son until further notice is a joint decision she fully supports. I didn't expect that of her. She did it on her own. Of course, they didn't like it. Now she's labeled as disrespectful and ungrateful, and how the black sheep eldest sister 35F and I are poisoning her against them. It was also said, what kind of man takes a woman away from her family over a spat? This isn't a spat, nor do I have anything to prove about manhood. They led a whole campaign designed to ruin my life. Their actions are chilling to me. These are the same people who looked me in the eye with a straight face while everything was going on. This is about protecting my family. My wife has gone low contact. Her family has this mindset that significant others or friends come and go, and it's family who is the constant and where loyalty should be. They can't seem to compute that my wife, our son, and I are the core family. They're extended family, and they don't have a claim over our son. Being involved with him is a privilege, not a right. It's what their exact issue is with me. They only really tolerated me because of our son. When I first met them, one of my wife's siblings 28F said they thought my wife was settling for me, because of age, and that she could do better. They're a very tight-knit group, and if one doesn't take to you, then you're not getting far with the rest. It felt like once their minds were made up, there was nothing I could do. I've long since stopped trying to make sense of any of their reasonings. It's a rabbit hole. Our plan is to move to a new area to create a healthier distance, cement boundaries, and have a fresh start. I brought up therapy too. It's something we've been discussing. We'll be officially starting that soon. I think moving away will be beneficial for us. It's something my eldest Asael had advised us on. During the wedding planning, she was encouraging my wife to move and create our own space away from their family's isolating circle. I know my wife is more than just her family. I've seen it firsthand. She shines so bright when away from their influence. That's what I meant when I said she was the most loving, unselfish, and decent person I've ever met. If I'm being honest, it's how things will turn out. I'm still hurt, I still feel betrayed, and my wife's facing her own challenges with low contact, but I want to be hopeful. I don't want to close the door. I'm hoping we can heal together. Thank you again to everyone for the support. I found not everything is as isolating as with the majority of my in-laws. It means more than you know. TLDR update 2, my marriage is in a bad spot. How to trust my wife again. I was the target of some relentless and vicious cyberbullying for months. It impacted my life and my mental health. I put it behind me until my wife confessed that her family was the culprit. She showed me proof in their group chat. I knew I wasn't their favorite person, but I never realized they hated me. My wife swears she didn't initially know and that she made them stop. But she still hid it for years. She begged me to understand and said that she was trying to make things right for us and our son. I asked for space to clear my head. She hasn't exactly respected that request. I'm really trying to move past it, but I feel so betrayed by her. If I'm being unfair. I want to make our marriage work, but I'm questioning everything. How do I navigate this situation and move forward for my marriage and myself? Comments. Commenter 1. Dude, I wish you all the best. I hope your wife can keep the no/low contact. Reply, thank you. It's much appreciated. I'm really hoping this can be a turning point. Commenter 2. Her family crossed an unforgivable line. Cut them out of your life completely. You must forge your own path, and toxic people have no place in it. Wish you the best of luck. Commenter 3. Even if it were forgivable, they'd have to express remorse for that to happen, and they never, ever will. Commenter 4. Low no contact. Dude, you didn't resolve anything. Reply, I didn't expect my wife to cut everything fully off all at once. The contact has mostly been implementing some boundaries we discussed and stuff that won't be condoned anymore. Commenter 5. Well, I hope you realize that her and her family are right now plotting to cut you out of your son's life. Let me know when CPS comes knocking at the door with complaints that you are abusing your son and your wife just lets it happen. Reply, that's not what my wife's doing, and whatever my in-laws are doing is none of my concern. I can't monitor their every move and thought. The truth will prevail. It always does. Commenter 6. Your wife, what kind of wife betrays, puts down, belittles, and lies to her partner? She did nothing to protect you and only herself. I could never trust her again. If she'll allow that to happen to you, imagine the awfulness your child will experience. Reply, I don't condone my wife's actions, and I'm not deluding myself that any of this will be easy. I'm willing to give our marriage an honest try. Broken trust doesn't mean it can never be regained. We aren't the first couple in history going through a trust crisis. I made a commitment. Marriage requires making a vow for better or for worse. I'm not saying that covers everything under the sun. Of course, there are situations where a parting of ways is needed. But not every case is the same. I made vows to give my marriage an honest try in the bad times. Stories number 2. Wibta, if I stopped helping my daughter financially after she told me I shouldn't expect her to take care of me when I'm old. I 52F have been helping my daughter 25F financially for years in college, car insurance, rent when needed, even surprise emergencies that somehow always involve travel or electronics. I'm not complaining, okay, maybe a little, but I love her and I've always tried to support her while she figures life out. Last week, we were casually talking about retirement stuff, nothing heavy. I made a joke like, well, hopefully you'll take care of your poor old mom someday, and she goes dead serious, you shouldn't expect me to do that. I didn't ask to be born, and you should have planned better for your old age. Ah. Excuse me, I laughed it off at the time, but it's been sitting in my chest like a rock ever since. I'm not asking her to wipe drool off my chin or pay my bills when I'm 80. It just kinda stung. Like, wow, really? After everything? So now I'm thinking, if she's already declared she's not gonna be there for me later, why am I bending over backwards to always be there for her now? Would I be the a-hole if I slowly backed off on the financial support? I'm not talking about cutting her off overnight, just, no more random Venmo bailouts or picking up the slack when her budget accidentally forgets rent. I don't want revenge. I just don't want to feel like a walking ATM anymore. Comments. Commenter 1. Tell her that since now you know that you can't expect any help from her, any money that you would give her, you will now redirect to your pension fund. You had to pay for her till she was 18. Anything after that was because you loved her and wanted to help her. But if she can't do the same when the roles are reversed, then you need to take care of yourself. NTA for stopping support. Reply. Exactly. That's how I'm starting to feel. I didn't have to keep helping after 18, I chose to. But hearing her say that kind of made me realize I should start choosing me too. Gotta make sure future me isn't eating instant noodles at 75 while she's out living her best life. Thanks for this. It really helped me feel less guilty. Commenter 2. Entit, sorry I can't help you out financially anymore. I've gone over my finances since our conversation regarding me finding my own care when I'm too old to do it alone and knowing I will need to pay for a home one day. I just don't have the funds to help. You're 25 now, you can figure it out on your own. Make it perfectly clear exactly why you can no longer help. I understand no one is entitled to have their child care for them later in life, but they need to understand it goes both ways. Please look after your own future. It's time for your child to do the same. Commenter 3. Tell her you're saving for your retirement and she should have planned better. NTA. Reply. Haha, I should, right? Honestly, the irony is wild. I planned her life better than I planned mine. Maybe it's time I finally start saving for myself instead of funding her emergencies every few months. Appreciate the backup. Commenter 4. You should have planned better for your old age. The next time she comes begging for money, tell her you're taking her advice and planning better for your old age. Step 1 is no longer handing out money for adult children. That money is now earmarked for old age. Stories number 3. Tomorrow, my boyfriend is going to ask me to marry him and I'm going to say no. I feel like if I don't tell someone, even strangers, I'll explode. The ache in my heart is only getting worse and I don't know what I can do to change how I feel. If I had one wish right now, it would be to somehow magically change how I feel. A week ago I found the ring. I think it was a week ago. He knew exactly what ring to buy. A girl can't ask for a more beautiful ring. It's been in his family for years. He also got a backup ring. I also know he asked my dad's permission and that my dad gave it to him despite both of us being young. Well, youngish. My family has always loved him, so much. I think they'll feel equally awful after tomorrow. I wish I didn't find the ring. Maybe if I didn't have time to think about it I would have said yes. But that's not fair to either of us. I'll miss him. I'll miss his scent, his hugs, his laugh. The way he doesn't make me feel dumb when I tell him I don't know something. He'll just explain it to me. No judgment. I'll miss the chemistry we have, how even after years of being together we still want each other just as much. I won't miss the jealousy, the possessiveness, and the way he feels like he owns me. When we first got together I thought I could live with his flaws. After all, I wasn't perfect too. But when I saw that ring I knew I couldn't. I want to be able to have friends even if they are of the opposite gender. I want to talk to my coworkers without someone feeling jealous or threatened. I want to sometimes have a girls' night. I want a relationship where my partner doesn't act possessive in the name of being protective. I want someone who won't scream at me, asking me to get in the car and leave with him just because a male friend asked me to hang out. I get why he does it, I understand him. I love him. He's insecure and I get that. He wants to protect me but what he doesn't understand is that he's hurting me trying to do this. I can't constantly fight and defend myself. That's not the life I see myself having. I feel like he doesn't trust me even after years of me being nothing but loyal. I feel selfish. I promised him I would never leave him. I promised him I'd stay and love him forever. I promised we'd grow old together, start a family together. He's even trying to be better for me. But it just wouldn't be fair for him to have a wife who, even if only for a few moments, resents him. I hope he wants to continue our relationship even though I'll say no. I won't keep all my promises. Just not now with the way that we are. I feel like I'm drowning. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to disappoint everyone I know. I hope I wake up tomorrow and magically change my mind. Edit. The reason why I'm not telling him no now, I've considered that but from how much I know him, it will be better if I answer when he asks me. Kinder. I know he'll want the chance to do it properly because otherwise he'll keep wondering like, what if she didn't find the ring, what if I did it right, what if she's just freaked out, etc. I know him and this is 100% the better way for him to find out at least considering the other option. It's not a public proposal. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I was with my ex for 10 years and there were so many things I excused and thought oh he's just slightly insecure. We talked and talked he promised things would change and he wouldn't be so possessive and question what I was doing. I knew he was going to ask me, and I wholeheartedly thought I'd say yes. When I saw the ring all I could say was no. We tried to make it work after but I just started to realize that while I loved him to my core he wasn't the future I wanted. We continued to be friends for a couple years, then I met my husband and that was fine but when I got pregnant he couldn't do it, he couldn't watch me build the life he wanted with me. He's now engaged and we're both happy in our lives. Sometimes you just realize the person you think is meant to be your forever really isn't and that's okay. Commenter 2. If I could go back in time, I would have never married my possessive jealous ex. I was the same way, I walked on eggshells around him. When I finally got the nerve to ask for a divorce, it got insane. Commenter 3. OP, not marrying the wrong person is one of the best decisions you'll make in life. I applaud you, stay strong. You've got this. Update, tomorrow, my boyfriend is going to ask me to marry him and I'm going to say no. Hello. I apologize for the very confusing way in which I worded my original post and for the late update as you can imagine the last few days has been hard. English is not my first language and besides, I didn't even think so many people would read it. I was honestly so shocked to see so many people try and help me understand my feelings. Thank you so very much for all the support, love and advice. Just to clarify a few things that people found confusing. He already had the family ring with him his great-grandmother's but he bought one more whole another ring just in case I didn't like the family one. The backup ring was more modern. I assumed right in thinking he planned to propose with the family ring and then give me the backup ring as a modern alternative. Also, I am 25F and he is 26M. We have been together for 5 years, will be 6 this Christmas. A lot of people were asking me why I'd want to stay in this relationship since I talked about how even though I was not ready to get married, I'd still want to be with my boyfriend. It's basically because I have faith in us. I want to help him and I want to try everything I can before giving up on us. I love him and his qualities and lovable quirks are so much more than his flaws. I know he had a not so good childhood which doesn't help with the insecurities. Rather than leave him and lose everything we had, I want to try. Of course this is all only applicable if I'm happy. I'm still prioritizing myself. I just want to help him along with this too. Okay, so the update. I ended up talking to him before he proposed. At first I was so sure that it was better to wait, but a few helpful comments made me realize I'd forever ruin the magic and beauty that comes with proposals if I let him actually do it only for me to say no. So I texted him and told him to come back home from work as soon as possible. My brother knew I was telling him about my decision just in case things got messy. Not that I think my boyfriend would ever hurt me, but I was just overall very chaotic in my emotions and felt like I'd need someone with me if we broke up. He came home, I cooked dinner and we sat together at the table. He could tell I found the ring. I knew that he knew the moment I looked at his face. I'm not sure how to best describe it in English, but there was a certain sadness in the air I couldn't quite understand. Not your typical sadness. I don't know. Anyways, I told him about the ring and he asked me if the answer was yes. I couldn't speak really, but he answered it for himself and said, obviously the answer is no, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. He asked me the reason. I explained as much as I could. He listened, I cried, then he cried. Then we just held each other. He was not angry at all and now I feel guilty for thinking he'd scream at me or something. I told him I still love him and that I just didn't want to get married now. He said okay and then that he wanted to be a better person for me before calling me his wife. I asked him if that meant he wanted to try something like therapy and he said yes. He was very hurt though, I could tell. It pained me to see someone I love so much go through that, but this was the only option. I didn't want to get married while he was still this way. We cried more, went for a walk, and I felt hopeful about our relationship for the first time in a while. I think we forgot that love isn't always enough, as someone pointed out in the comment section. I want to understand him more and I can see that he wants to try and be better with his insecurities and instincts. I know it will be slow, the whole process. I know he won't magically change. But I'm okay with that. I'm booking an appointment soon. We have been having more honest conversations, especially me, by telling him how hurt I was by some of the things he does. It felt good to communicate like that. He opened up to me too about his insecurities and whatnot. Thank you again, for validating my feelings. It felt so good to just type all this out and to have so much love and kindness. Thank you. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I dated my husband a year before we got engaged. We were engaged for 7 years before we decided we were ready to actually be married. We got through all the tough and terrible stuff that breaks up new marriages before we actually signed legal papers. Our way of treating it was as long as we both had one foot in, then things were worth fight for. If not, then it was easier to walk away. We've been married 10 years now. Commenter 2. I have to say that I'm so damn proud of you. You covered all loose ends, were honest and direct, and it appears to have worked out for the best so far. I think that even if your relationship with him was to end at some point, you both will be better from this experience. Very proud of you, you fucking smashed this. Commenter 3. How will he know the best time to propose to you? Will you give him big hints? As he will probably be apprehensive to ask you, fearing the "I'm not ready" answer. Or are you comfortable just maintaining the status quo? What you did was a very mature approach and taking marriage very seriously for the right reasons. Reply. He actually asked me that and I told him we'd have that conversation soon, as I'm not sure myself. I think when I feel like the both of us are at a more comfortable position, I just tell him like, hey, I feel like we're at a really great place. Stories number 4. Aita for not banning my wife's dog from our home even though my son is suddenly allergic to it. I have a son from my first marriage that I have 50-50 custody of. We alternate weeks. My now wife used to work in another state and she has 2 daughters. We dated long distance and I would see her every other week when I traveled for work. My son has met her and her daughters many times and we moved slow. We only married after the kids were okay with it. My wife finally got a new job here 3 months ago and we bought a house together in the same city my son and I live in. Her kids are still adjusting to the move and are not thrilled. The problem now is with my ex, my son and my wife's 6-year-old German Shepherd. My son has met this dog many times before and has had no issues before. Well, after we bought the house and my wife brought the dog here permanently, there has been a whole disaster. Remember that my son has seen this dog many times before with no issues and there is no known history of dog allergies. But now it seems he's having a mild reaction to the dog all of a sudden. It's some redness around his eyes and sniffling. An allergist has confirmed this. My ex has gone absolutely crazy more than usual and refused to let my son over unless the dog is removed. She is also not approving the use of antihistamines if the reaction is bothering him. I ended up spending $40,000 to renovate our basement so my son would have a living space that is totally separate from the dog. I also bought several air purifiers and vacuum and scrub everything every single day when he's living here. It's exhausting, but the moment he complains of a possible reaction my ex takes him back to her house even though it's my custody time. Now it appears my son is listening to his mother and making ultimatums that he won't be coming over unless we get rid of the dog. You can see why this is difficult for me. My wife and stepdaughters are completely attached to their dog. My wife is beside herself and is now saying she regrets buying the house together. But we are stuck with the house for a while because of financial reasons. I really thought the separate living area was a good compromise. It's much nicer than the rest of the house. And I'm down there the entire time he is. I'm just so sick of my ex constantly trying to run my life and I refuse to put my wife and stepdaughters through something as traumatic as giving up their dog. My ex told me yesterday I was putting the dog over my son's needs and it broke my heart. That is not what I'm doing. And it's killing me that he's hearing this from her. Am I the asshole here? My son is 13 and I don't know how much longer I'll be able to force him to come live with me on my time. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Info. What in your custody agreement makes it okay that your wife has refused to allow your son to come or refused to allow him to take antihistamine or any other medication? What she seems to forget is she's no longer your wife and while she has a say over what does and does not happen with her child she has no say in what goes on in your home as long as you're attending to the safety and well-being of your child like, oh I don't know, putting on a $40,000 addition for a separate living space. Reply. The way it's written both parents' consent is required for medical decisions. My ex also buys into a lot of conspiracy theories that my son is now also starting to believe. Commenter 2. NTA I think. It seems like his allergy is pretty mild and you've gone above and beyond to accommodate it. He's 13, not a little kid. He can take medicine if all he gets are the sniffles. It's not really fair for your wife to have to get rid of her dog for some sneezes. However, if his allergy is any more serious than you're letting on it's more of a problem. Regardless, your ex is being a real asshole. She should not be interfering in this so heavily and she should not be doing so by playing up the issue to your son and making him upset with you over it. Have you sat your son down and talked to him about it one-on-one? Reply. It is a mild allergy for sure. That's even how the allergist put it. But my ex has been convincing my son it's worse than it actually is and they are both overreacting. I have tried talking to him several times but when his own mother is contradicting me he's obviously confused and is just siding with her. Top comments. Commenter 1. NTA. You worked really hard to come up with a compromise and spent $40,000 to do it. Your ex is being completely unreasonable. It may be time to take her back to court. Commenter 2. He built a dungeon to keep his teenaged son in. Yeah, no teenager will love being locked in the basement when he visits his dad. Commenter 3. A dungeon? It sounded like the kid got his own apartment. What kid doesn't want his own apartment? Seriously though, you might want to get back in touch with a lawyer OP. My son and ex lied about the severity of his allergies, forcing me to give my wife's family dog away. How do I fix this? This situation is honestly tearing my family apart. My son from my first marriage is 14 now. When I got married to my now wife a year a bit ago, everything was going great. We did things by the book and made sure the kids were happy before we got married. Once we got married, my wife moved to my state where my son and I live. We bought a house together. My wife and stepdaughters had a 6-year-old German Shepherd. My son met this dog several times before and had no issues. After we moved in together, my son started getting mild reactions to the dog. The doctor said antihistamines would be a simple fix but my ex refused to let him take them. As a result, I completely renovated our basement to the point it's nicer than the rest of the house, just so my son could have a dog-free space. I spent a lot of money doing this. This wasn't enough and my son, with my ex in the sidelines, gave me the ultimatum of him or the dog. At this point we'd had months of conflict and my son leaving early anytime he had discomfort. So after discussing with my wife, we made the heartbreaking decision to let someone else adopt the dog because we didn't want my son to feel like we picked the dog over him. My stepdaughters were devastated but were very understanding. My son resumed seeing me as per the schedule and it seemed to be working out. Until Christmas when my ex bought a dog for her family. And my son is freely taking antihistamines now without any complaint. This has obviously not gone over well with my wife and stepdaughters. The kids are fighting non-stop with my son, who is not even being remotely remorseful. My wife is incredibly upset and angry. And I feel like a fool who fell for a very cruel trick. I talked to my son about this who just seems to avoid the subject. My ex has basically been very rude and flippant about the whole thing. My stepdaughters have said they'll never forgive my son and I'm just left here wondering how I salvage this. And family therapy isn't an option because my ex opposes therapy. I'm saving to change our custody order because my ex is abusing clauses that lets her deny certain medical treatments she disagrees with. I'm also feeling very betrayed by my son. I know he's being caught in the middle but his subsequent attitude has been very disappointing. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Yeah, this kid needs therapy. Family therapy may be good for the half that can get it in the meantime, so they can process their loss better. So sorry, BTW. My parents' German Shepherd is my best friend, and I'm allergic to her so this is making me have all kinds of feels. He is devious, in pain, and I'm concerned mom may be refusing therapy because she is purposefully manipulating son against you and a therapist would see through that. My son, with my ex in the sidelines, gave me the ultimatum of him or the dog. She knew if he asked the choice would be more difficult. My son leaving early anytime he had discomfort. He knows you don't want him to leave so you'll avoid making him uncomfortable which basically trains you to be a doormat. Have you spoken directly with your son about this? He needs to understand the gravity of what his actions have caused, so please don't minimize you or your family's feelings about this while speaking with him. He needs to understand the consequences of his actions, and if he doesn't care I'll just hope extra hard that the custody stuff works out so you can put him in therapy. Reply. I have talked to him many times. And he knows how much it killed my wife and stepdaughters to let the dog go. I'm so disappointed with how remorseless he is. And I have no idea how I can bring this family together again. I know my ex is definitely manipulating him. But surely he should have some empathy for himself. Commenter 2. And I have no idea how I can bring this family together again. You don't, and you seek therapy to accept that your inability to do that is not your fault. It is your wife's and to a lesser extent your son's. He's old enough he had a say in his actions. Do not do the wrong things because you're chasing after some hopeless dream of a fairy tale reunion and the family getting back together. Do right by your daughters. Do right by your son, by making him face consequences for his truly heinous actions. If he's mad at you, well, sometimes that's part of being a good parent. Reply. I'm not sure what kind of consequences I can even give. His own mother is apparently orchestrating all this. He's not a badly behaved kid. It was just this one thing. But the one thing turned out to be a huge deal. I don't know. I feel like I can't do anything right. Commenter 3. Yes to therapy, fuck what your ex thinks. Y'all need it. Reply. I can't take him to therapy without my ex signing off on it too. The therapist's office has this rule. OOP added in the comments. I think people are being a bit too harsh on my son. I don't believe he intentionally set out to get the dog removed and purposely do the complete opposite later. With a mother like my ex, I can see why he got so upset about the allergies. I only wish he tried to at least make his feelings known and taken the medication, or tried to be his own person when his mother was pulling the strings. And now, I want him to at least apologize for what he put my wife and my stepdaughters through. But he's in this mentality that he did what his parents, namely his mom, wanted him to do. He's always been sweet and kind. So seeing this behavior is really jarring, and I can't exactly not see my son or limit my time with him. That would just increase my ex's influence on him, to fool by being a shit dad and doing the same thing I accused my ex. I have posted my situation on Reddit before. We ended up giving away my wife's family dog because my son developed a mild allergy after we had already bought a house and moved in together. My ex refused to let my son take antihistamines and goaded my son into making an ultimatum, him or the dog. So we made the decision to give the dog away because we didn't want him to feel like we were picking a dog over his health. My wife and stepdaughters were devastated. Well, last Christmas, we were shocked to find out that my ex got a dog and started my son on antihistamines. We felt completely betrayed. Especially my wife and my stepdaughters. My stepdaughters were extremely upset with my son and we had to keep them separated. I then decided to be stupid and petty and start legal proceedings to gain full custody based on my ex buying a dog. I said I didn't want my son on toxic medication like she did, but I honestly just wanted revenge. In response, my ex also gave her dog away. A month ago, my son moved out of my ex's house to my parents' house. He said he wasn't going to live with neither my ex nor me. I went over really pissed because I thought this was him playing into my ex's schemes. Instead, I sat and watched him cry and say that now everyone at both houses hates him and he's being bullied. And he included my ex and I as the ones bullying him. I felt like I was shot through my heart. I realized I'd done exactly what I was accusing my ex of, using my son as a pawn in our conflict. When did I become this disgusting person? How did I let myself become such a terrible father? His face was filled with so much hurt and sadness. He was already getting shit at my home from my stepdaughters and I'd managed to make the kids at my ex's house dislike him too. What I'd interpreted as being remorseless was actually him putting walls up because he was feeling attacked. I'm so ashamed of myself. My dad told me he was very disappointed in my actions last week. I sat in my car and wept. I'm disappointed in myself too. I created a mediation appointment with my ex and she actually participated. She also seemed to be full of regret. We came to an agreement to stop fucking up our son's happiness just because we were assholes, but I'm not sure if we can salvage the situation with our son. He's cut both my ex and me off completely. And I can't even blame him, I just had to get this out. I haven't been able to sleep for a while now. I tried calling my son today again. He actually answered this time. He told me he hated me. To hear your child say he hates you and actually mean it is the worst feeling in the world. TLDR, I put my son in the middle of my bullshit with my ex, potentially damaging our relationship forever. Stories number 5. Aita for kicking my boyfriend's sister out of my apartment mid-visit. My boyfriend's sister came to visit us from out of town. She was supposed to stay for 4 days, and I was cool with that because I've always tried to be welcoming with his family, even though we're not super close. I don't mind sharing space, but I do expect basic courtesy in my home. From day one, she was a handful. She left her stuff all over the living room, used my expensive skincare without asking, and blasted music while I was working from home. I brought it up gently, like, hey, can you just check with me before using certain things, and she brushed it off with a sarcastic, sorry, I thought this place was chill. By day 3, I was over it. I caught her letting my dog out without a leash in our busy-ass neighborhood, just because she thought he'd come back. That was it for me. I told her she needed to cut her visit short and find a hotel or stay with a friend. She acted shocked and called me a control freak. My boyfriend got home and didn't back me up, just said I was overreacting and making it weird. Now his family's pissed and saying I humiliated her by kicking her out like that. But like, it's my place, not a hotel. If I can't even feel comfortable in my own home, that's a problem. Especially when I tried to be patient for days. So yeah. Aita for kicking her out before her visit was over. I honestly feel like I was more than fair, but everyone's acting like I flipped out for no reason. Comments. Commenter 1. If everything you say is true, then you are completely justified in requesting her to leave. Your boyfriend should be the next to go. Reply. Letting her dog roam free would have me raging. My dog jumped my fence the first year I got him, got hit by a car. Almost $5,000 in vet bills. The sister is wacko. Commenter 2. Yeah, that's some wild entitlement, who the heck just let someone else's dog out without a leash? It's not just dangerous, it's also illegal. FFS NTA, but boyfriend and his sister sure are. Commenter 3. NTA, however, you've got a boyfriend problem. If he thinks it's okay for his sister, or for that matter anyone, to come into your home and disrespect you in that manner, shows he's spineless. Either he gets on board with backing you up and correcting his sister, or you refuse any more overnight guests from his side of the family. I would definitely be re-evaluating your relationship as a whole. Strong work standing up for yourself. Commenter 4. Now his family is pissed and saying I humiliated her by kicking her out like that. Oh well, lol. Guess her parents should have raised her better. They should be embarrassed that their child behaved so horribly while she was a guest in someone's home that she was kicked out. Hopefully she's learned a valuable lesson from this. Good for you for holding your boundaries, and as far as your boyfriend, he needs to get his priorities straight. I'd have a conversation with him about common decency and respect, and if he can't be a proper partner and back you up, then you should kick him out too. Stories number 6. Aita for not moving with my family because my sister needed to go to another school district because of bullying. My parents moved house in June. They were planning the move for months and they live over an hour from where we used to live, which is where I 16M still live, just with my grandparents. Originally my parents weren't going to give me a choice, but my grandparents argued that since I have an IEP for school and had trouble before with schools resisting the accommodations needed for me, that I should be given the choice of moving or staying with them so I could stay at my old school. Eventually my parents agreed to ask and I said I wanted to stay. They're still pissed about it. The reason they had to move was because my sister 15F was being bullied and they were kinda terrified of what the kids bullying her would do. She was pushed and shoved a few times already and they followed her home every day. My mom told the kids to fuck off a few times and leave my sister alone, and they said she didn't deserve to be left alone because of all she had put their sister through. See, my sister bullied her bully's younger sister first. She'd tell her to end herself and stuff like that, would repeatedly say the world would be a better place without her and called her ugly and fat and stuff like that too. She used their time on computers to keep messaging her comments about how she was worthless and should stop living so people could be happier. I found out about it when it had already been going on a few months and I told my parents, but they didn't do anything to stop her. I confronted my sister about it and she was enjoying it. She loved seeing the other girls slowly withdraw and become depressed. She found it funny and laughed about it with her friends. That girl was after 2 years kept away from my sister, but some said she had an attempt or wanted to, and that's when her siblings started bullying my sister back for what she did. And I know she's my sister and I'm supposed to love her enough to support her with what she's going through now that she's being targeted, but I don't feel bad for her and I don't want to fuck my own life because she decided to be evil and got targeted back in revenge. My parents know I don't care about what's happening to my sister. They know it's one part of the reason I didn't move because I never comforted my sister or tried to be there for her when she was dealing with that shit throughout the year. But they also think it's wrong that I wouldn't go where my family is, and they say 16-year-olds should be with their immediate family, not extended family. And they're pissed because I said no to moving again after they settled. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, your parents have failed. They are embarrassed when they explain that you live elsewhere. It is all about saving face. A whole family moving is one thing. But one family member not moving requires some kind of explanation they don't want to give. Commenter 2. Good for you. I'm glad she was getting what she dished out. I wonder if your parents and sister understand the ramifications of her behavior. If that poor girl had, in fact, attempted or worse yet succeeded in taking her own life, both her and your parents could possibly be held on major criminal charges as well as sued. Your parents are major assholes for condoning her behavior and then getting all upset because their precious daughter is getting what she was doing right back to her. And since their solution was to move, instead of holding her accountable, they're morons, to put it lightly. Your sister isn't just an asshole. She's a major bitch. One day, if she keeps going like this, she'll find out the hard way what can happen to a bully. Reply. My sister doesn't care. Like she literally doesn't feel bad still. For her it's all so funny and she thinks the girl deserved it for being herself and existing. I think even if the girl had been successful, my sister would be one of those people who would be all over her socials saying nasty stuff like Amanda Todd. I think she was the girl we learned about in school. Commenter 2. Reply. This part of your family sucks ass. Kudos to you and your grandparents. If my parents had found out I had done what your sis did, not only would I have been taken over to the kid's house and made to apologize, but they would have told the other kids there that if I ended up getting my ass handed to me I fully deserved it. She's narcissistic and on the way to being a sociopath. Commenter 3. NTA, I don't feel sorry for your sister getting a taste of her own medicine. Your parents should have looked at the entire situation and held your sister accountable for her role in it. She should have gotten shipped off to a relative's house if she couldn't handle the treatment that she earned through her own actions, or a strict military boarding school. Too bad they cost so much. Reply. My parents were never going to send her away alone anyway. They were always going to protect and defend her, and they expect everyone else to do the same. She still doesn't feel bad for what she did either. Stories number 7. AIO, mother-in-law says I'm ruining the weird photos she tried to sneak of my new baby. Need to get some feedback on this because it's driving me crazy. My 37F family has been staying with my husband's 36M parents 59F and 59M for a week, and we'll be at their home for another week before we have to head home to get the kids ready for back to school. My mother-in-law and I don't necessarily get along, but she's been trying to play nice since I gave birth to our 4th child, a boy, 4 months ago. However, I suppose the nice act has ended because she's been stirring the pot and pushing my buttons since we got to their house, rummaging through my clothes, whining that I should bottle feed instead of nursing so she has a chance to feed her baby, the works. I've been biting my tongue because my husband loves his family and this is some of the only time we get to see his siblings, but at the end of this week, MIL storms downstairs while we're eating breakfast and the kids are in the yard playing, claiming we needed to talk. I go through a mental checklist to try to figure out which one of her household rules I've broken, or how I've managed to piss her off this time, when she slaps her phone down on the counter and begins scrolling through photos that are all of me and the baby, photos she apparently took while I wasn't paying attention, as most of them are blurry or from strange angles down low as though she angled her phone up while it was in her lap. One of them is taken through a crack in the door to Hub's and I's bedroom. I ask Mil what her problem is and why she's been taking photos of me and the baby like a lunatic instead of just asking for my help with taking photos I'd approve of. I don't want my infant son's face plastered all over her social media. I cover it with emojis in my Facebook pictures. She complains that she doesn't want to put those stupid pictures all over his face, and that I won't put him down long enough for her to get a photo of him by himself. He's been contact napping and I wear him for most of the day, and she can't post the photos she took because I'm huge and ruining them by looking ridiculous. For context, I'm definitely on the heavier side, 5 feet 3 inches and 230 pounds, and because half of these photos are from a weird low angle, I have a prominent double chin, and baby is usually pressed up against me either in my arms or his wrap, so the photos are pretty much just unflattering pictures of me, with baby's head and maybe an arm or a leg visible. I tell her that I'm not going to entertain this behavior, and since she decided to approach the supposed problem like this, she can work with what she's already got, but she's definitely not getting a solo photo op with my baby now. Hubby is understanding and supports my decision, even getting in the way when he sees Mil trying to sneakily take more photos, or distracting her so I can leave the room, but some people think I'm blowing this out of proportion. Phil says Mil has a right to take photos of her grandchild and it's not her fault that I'm insecure about how fat I am. Hubby's twin sister is also being dismissive because she's always been catty about weight. Why are you acting so insulted like it's the first time? Even my sister, when I called and complained about this, acted like I was making mountains out of molehills. She was like this 60 pounds ago, why is it suddenly a big deal again? No one will listen to me when I insist that I don't care about her comments on my weight. I care that she's sneaking around taking photos like a stalker because she doesn't respect me enough to ask my permission to take photos of my baby. She doesn't want to have to follow my rules about covering his face, and can't wrench him out of my arms to get pictures of him, so she's just been acting like a creep instead. I'm nursing him in one of these photos. This is weird, right? Am I crazy? Edit. Thank you guys for proof that I'm not crazy. I honestly didn't even think about going home early. I was fully prepared to just grit my teeth for the rest of this visit because we only took one car on the drive up here. I'm packing my and my son's things, and when husband gets back from fishing with his dad and his brother, I'm asking him if he can drive me and the baby back home. I'll be able to have peace of mind and have the house to myself for a few days so I can get things in order before the kids have to go back to school. Edit 2. Husband is back. They're home from fishing early because BL lost his pole and they forgot to bring any spares. He and I have been texting since he left early this morning, and he's taking the baby and I home, and we're planning on having a conversation about what time spent with his folks will look like going forward on the drive back. Thank you all for the advice, giving me the gumption to leave early, and keeping me company with your comments while I packed my stuff. Comments. Commenter 1. Nor, I'd report her pics on social media with your baby and say that it's inappropriate child content or something. Because the pics look like they've been taken stealthily, it kind of works in your favor, lol. I'm sorry people aren't respectful of your wishes, but it's great that your husband is and he seems to be trying to help. Also, side note, you are allowed to be annoyed at somebody body shaming you and ask them to stop. I hate how older generations think they are allowed a pass for things like this, racism, sexism, etc. Reply. I didn't even think about reporting her photos. If they manage to pop up on her FB, I'll definitely do that to get them taken down. I've told her to mind her business about my body, especially in front of my children, but she's nosy and can't help but make comments. So long as they're just to me or to my husband in private, I can at least let them roll off. She's been somewhat better about keeping her mouth shut while the older kids are around. Commenter 2. What if your husband told her directly to cut the crap? That would be the most logical and clear way to resolve the situation. Obviously, she doesn't hear your words, which is BS. I don't know if I could stand another week of name-calling, disrespect, and flagrant flouting of reasonable rules or otherwise. You are the parent I have set, or my husband and I have implemented. The car/train/airport would already be looking delicious. Why do I have to get the sweet mother-in-law who lives half a world away? It seems there's a direct correlation between problematic behavior and proximity, or maybe it's the distance makes them seem tolerable. JK, my husband's mom is a treasure, and if we were having kids, she'd be the one I'd want here, even over my own mom, which is saying something. The picture taking is freaking bizarre and her comments are shitty. I'd have your husband run more strict interference so the week remaining under that Harridan's roof are less horrible for you. Being mom of a newborn is challenging enough, as you are more than well aware by now. She's a weirdo and boy, won't she be shocked when you get home and you're NC or very 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 LC. And, I don't see how a person could be a good grandparent if they don't respect their grandchildren's parents. It's all part and parcel. Best to you. Reply. Husband has told her to knock it off, and she doesn't listen to him either. I feel lucky to be married to a man with a spine and not an eager to please mama's boy, but watching her bulldoze him when he tries to put his foot down irks me. Glad your mother-in-law's a delight, makes up for the rest of us who have to deal with bats hit crazy and beyond. I'm planning on skipping out on the rest of this lovely vacation and taking the baby with me, but thank you for the advice and the well wishes. We already spend way more time with my family than his, but that ratio might be tipping even further in my folks' favor now. Commenter 3. Go home now, don't waste your precious postpartum time with someone rude and disrespectful. She is awful. And posting pictures online can do actual harm. Pack up and go home. Life's too short to dodge around nutcases when you don't have to. Reply. My husband will be back in a few hours and I plan on asking him to take me home. I'm reading comments while I finish repacking my suitcase. We're only a 3-hour drive away, I honestly don't know why I didn't consider leaving before. Update, AIO, mother-in-law says I'm ruining the weird photos she tried to sneak of my new baby. I wasn't going to update because I got home with the baby and settled in and thought nothing of it, just communicated with my husband and my 14-year-old through texts and phone calls while they were gone, but problems started to follow pretty soon after. After my husband returned to his parents' house without the baby and his mother huffed and started grumbling about how dramatic I am, how possessive I am of her baby, how I was ruining this trip for everyone. SIL began winding her up, talking about how I didn't want anyone else to build a relationship with the baby. Husband told both of them to mind their business and get a grip, mentioning to MIL that he needed to have a serious talk with her once the kids left with BIL for lunch. MIL rolled her eyes and walked off. They have a talk and husband insists to MIL and FIL that they can't expect me to roll over and let them stomp all over my limits just because they want access to our baby, that we are the final say in what happens with our children, and if they can't get on board with that, they can forget about seeing them, especially not unsupervised. He told Mael that her sneaking around acting like my word meant nothing was childish and proved that she wasn't trustworthy, and he told both of them to keep their opinions about my weight to themselves. This starts what husband told me later was a practically 2 to 3 hour argument that only stopped because BL came back with the kids and husband refused to discuss this in front of them. MIL pulling out crocodile tears and asking why he won't defend her, insisting that I'm trying to ruin their relationship. Husband has never been close with his mother, and that she just wants to show off her baby to her friends and the extended family. Husband responds that if she really wanted to take pictures of the baby, all she had to do was ask for help so he or I could cover the baby's face. MIL and FIL argue that they shouldn't have to ask permission, they're grown adults and can do as they please in their own house. Husband reminds them that it is our baby, not theirs, and since they felt so strongly, that is why I removed myself from the situation, and if they wanted to see my baby, they could do it at our house, where they'll have to follow our rules. This went back and forth, with MIL eventually shouting and stomping her feet until BIL returned. For the rest of the day, MIL was grumbling under her breath and practically ignoring our older children, even as my 5-year-old was clamoring for her attention. Husband paid her no mind, and spent the evening playing board games with the kids and BIL while SIL and his mother sulked in the kitchen. Fast forward to last night, husband was having a couple of beers with his brother while MIL and SIL have wine in the kitchen. FIL had gone to bed early and the kids were asleep. Husband hears MIL and SIL giggling to each other, and while casually checking his phone, he sees that MIL has posted all of the photos she took of me on her Facebook page, captioning them with, "My name, won't let me see my grandson, so you'll have to excuse her hogging the frame." In the comments of her post, she was chatting with her sisters about me, derogatory comments on my hair as my icon and username reflects, I'm a natural redhead, shaming me for my selfishness, and obviously comments on my body. Husband flips his shit, demanding that MIL take the photos down or he'd take her phone from her and do it himself. Apparently there were more photos than even the ones we saw at first, and in several of them my top is fully open, nursing bra unclipped. MIL is unaware husband is serious and tries teasing him that she thought he wasn't ashamed of being married to a fat woman. Husband rushes into the kitchen and snatches MIL's phone out of her hands after a brief scuffle, deleting the photos from MIL's Facebook and then taking them off of her phone altogether, before throwing her phone down on the counter and telling her that he was leaving first thing in the morning. MIL scowls and starts shouting that it isn't fair he's taking my side. He responds that he loves me, that it isn't my side versus hers, it's our side versus hers. I'm pretty out of the loop about all of this at this point. I've been cleaning the house, looking after the baby, and dealing with the cold I was apparently incubating for the first week of our visit, so I get a call from Hubs while I'm doing laundry in the basement. He's in his car trying to keep himself calm but says that he'll be home early with the kids in the morning and that he wanted to have a discussion with me about our plans moving forward. He tells me what happened, I calm him down, and we both head to bed. Fast forward to this morning and I get up early with the baby to have breakfast and coffee waiting. Hubs arrives with 14, 10, and 5 at about 6 a.m., we have breakfast, and then the kids peel off to do their own thing. Our daughters leave for their friends' houses, and the 5-year-old goes into the basement den to watch cartoons on the big TV. Hubs and I talk, and he says he's done with that annual visit to his parents' place, and that he's planning to have some one-on-one time with his brother a few times a year instead. We go over a plan of action in terms of much stricter boundaries, deciding that the kids won't be going to the in-laws' house anymore, and while the in-laws visit us at our house, if they act out, they'll be kicked out. Mil has been blowing up his phone since he left, but he's ignoring her for the time being and helping me with cleaning. He also sheepishly admitted that as disrespectful and frustrating as Mil's creepy photos were, they'd given him a new appreciation for my round face. I picked a winner, y'all, truly. Dr. Mil had a tantrum after I left and posted the photos she took, even more than I'd previously seen, onto Facebook until DH deleted them after taking her phone from her. Husband returned home with our kids and now we're back to business with new rules in place for Mil and FIL for the future. Comments. Commenter 1. Yes, she's the victim because it's oh so safe to put baby and young children pics online. If your page is private, nobody can get around that. And it's not like pedos use the internet. My niece has an account for family to post pics of her kids. We live pretty far, so we don't get to see them enough. Since we all use Apple devices, I've been trying to talk her into a shared album instead in the photo app. We will be setting that up soon. A friend of hers actually stole a NICU pic of her oldest after his surgery at 2 days old. Set up a GoFundMe claiming it was her kid and he was dying. She got in trouble for fraud. No idea who reported her to the site. People are scum. You are trying to protect your baby from that scum. Your mill wants to parade your baby in front of the scum. And please start correcting her every time she says my baby. You mean my baby or your grandson, right? Reply. Exactly. Even beyond creeps, there are plenty of scammers and the like who use photos of children for their own strange purposes. Plus I feel like baby photos are sacred. Once a kid is about 5 or 6, you can sort of ask, oh, mommy's going to take a photo so all your aunts and uncles can see, you want to take a picture, and get an authentic response. But before then, private photos. I'm thankful I kept my eldest's photos from birth to 4 entirely offline with how cagey and easily frustrated and embarrassed she is about the indignity of having ever been a baby teenagers. I swear, she'd never let me live it down if I posted her baby pictures online. Reply commenter 1. That incident with my niece was why she made a family-only account. But I've easily and accidentally got around locked profiles. The non-accidental was a stalker. I wanted to keep tabs back to make sure I was safe and he wasn't in my area. The accidental was looking up a business who contacted ours to do work for them. They sounded scammy. One of the searches I did brought back his small. I already looked on SM and his private were locked. The search engine went right around it bring private. First for me, but reverse image searches do weird things sometimes. I get your daughter. I'm so glad I was a teen when the internet took hold the way that it did. I mean as a kid I had Clink on my Commodore 64. But there was no web. It was going directly to servers to get info. Commenter 2. I am sorry you and your husband have to deal with such an unhinged family. My mouth hit the floor when reading about the pictures and comments Mil posted about you. Is she in middle school? You are better than I am. I would not allow that woman into my house ever again. Good luck, OP. Reply. Thank you, it's been a mess. I never thought I'd deal with so much mean girls bullshit from someone who's never even seen the movie. The holidays are certainly going to be interesting this year, that's for damn sure. Commenter 3. It's insane that she acts like you're in the wrong for any of this. They're acting completely crazy. How does one grow to become such an immature person? Stories number 8. Aita for refusing to apologize for yelling at my mom that I wish she died instead of dad. My dad died 6 years ago. I 16M was 10 at the time. Mom grieved so hard she shut down and neglected and ignored me for over 2 years. She lost her job, didn't do anything around the house, wouldn't even answer when spoken to and me, my aunt and my grandparents had to feed her and they had to help her get to the bathroom and bathe her. She would not do a thing for herself. There were times I thought she was dead because she was so still and silent. My grandpa ended up getting through to her in a way the rest of us couldn't, and she came back slowly. She focused on herself a lot for the next year and was really distant and weird with me. It was like she suddenly hated me and I never got why. She sent me to my grandparents a lot and didn't really show back up as a mom. After another year it was like she had a personality transplant and she was talking to me more. But then I found out it was because she was dating a guy and wanted me to meet him. I told her I didn't want to and she got into my face and yelled at me for shitting on her happiness. She told me every young man needs a dad figure and he'd be a good one and I needed to meet him. She grabbed my face when I told her I wasn't ready and she said we did things on her timeline because she needed him. Things remained weird and my grandparents encouraged Mom to keep sending me over because clearly we were just not getting along. She was angry all the time because I didn't go crazy over her boyfriend. They got engaged last year and Mom was so happy about it. But when she saw I wasn't, she went nuts and started yelling and cursing and asking me why I was such a little shit and why I had to stop us moving on like we needed to. She yelled that Dad was dead and I needed to get over it. I told her I couldn't. That I missed him and I felt like I lost everything when he died because she wasn't the same either and I felt abandoned by her. She slapped me clean across the face with no hesitation and yelled at me some more and told me that she was getting a new husband and I was getting a new dad and I had no say in it and the topic was closed. After that every interaction between us was tense and she grabbed me a few times and left bruises on my arm when she was mad that I wasn't working on my relationship with her fiancé. She wanted me to be his best man and he asked me to be, but I said no. I thought Mom was going to slap me again, but she did shove me and told me to grow up. Then they got married and yelled and cursed at me more for the plastic smile I had on my face. She said nobody looked at me and thought I was actually happy and how dare I showcase that at her wedding. 3 months ago we got into it again when I went to see my paternal grandparents without asking her. She told me I had no right to see them without her approval and I needed to let them go and move on and stop clinging to Dad because it wasn't good for her marriage. I told her I didn't care and Dad was important to me, my family was important to me and I wasn't going to forget about him because she wanted to. She called me a disrespectful little shit, a cunt, and she even accused me of being gay for my dad because of how much I pined after him. She was slamming shit and throwing shit and I lost it and I told her that I hated her now and I would be better off with Dad and I wish she had died instead of him. My grandparents had to come and remove me from the house because Mom wanted to end me. She was so mad that I said what I did. But I meant it. I lost my mom when I lost Dad. Maybe I would have had some chance of Dad sticking around for me if the reverse happened. Maybe I wouldn't be slapped and grabbed hard enough to leave bruises or have shit thrown at me. I'm staying with my grandparents now. My aunt takes me some weekends too. Mom's calmed down some but she's demanding I apologize and her husband said I need to or they'd call the cops. My grandparents told him she'd be the one arrested and not me because she assaulted me and hurt me multiple times. He said I threatened her with that comment. Mom insists that I was gross to her with everything I said and I was only thinking of me like the selfish shit I am and there's no excuse for what I said. I wouldn't mean an apology if I gave one. Aita. Comments. Commenter 1. I am so sorry for what you have had to go through and still are going through. There is nothing threatening about your comment, it is a statement of fact. There are AHs in this scenario, but not you. Your grandparents sound brilliant too, so glad they have got your back. Commenter 2. The man she married has to be a fucking piece of shit to be with someone who openly abuses their kid. NTA. Here is what I would do if I was you. If you have any pictures of the physical abuse that you suffered so far, please make copies of them and keep them in a secure place. Secondly, write out every single incident of her verbally or physically abusing you in the last 6 years. You might not ever need it and hopefully you don't, but at least you will have it ready if you do. I would also think about calling CPS and the police or when that time comes. Your grandparents and aunt kind of shot themselves in the foot by not contacting CPS when the abuse first started. They didn't keep you safe enough by trying to keep the peace or thinking that your egg donor was gonna go back to normal. It sounds like your mother has never got therapy for whatever she went through and instead is using child abuse as her main form of therapy, which is fucked up and gross and disgusting. I'm very glad you have a support system in her parents and your paternal grandparents as well. Are you closer to 17 than you are to 16? The reason why that would be good is if a child runs away at 17, the authorities are less likely to drag them home until they're 18, especially if they're in a safe place. When you turn 18, you can completely go no contact with your egg donor. If you have any family encouraging you to talk to her, you can go no contact with them too. It'll be easier for you to do things like get a cease and desist if she starts to harass you or a restraining order. If you have a cell phone, I would recommend downloading and saving all the threatening messages that she's ever sent you. Your mom's not gonna stop on her own. So you just have to be ready for when she escalates. I'm really sorry, and I'm also terribly impressed with how you've handled the situation. I know you said something extreme to your egg donor, but you were put in an extreme situation. You were pushed to your very limit, and I don't think that makes you an asshole. It means you are a kid who has never been given the opportunity to properly grieve a father he loved deeply. Reply: My mom never got therapy. My grandparents suggested it several times and she refused. When she started to come around, I still hoped she'd get back to the way she was before Dad died. That's so far from what happened. With everyone else she was normal, but it was like she hated me and I couldn't understand it then or now. I don't have photo proof, although I do have texts I sent when I had the bruises asking my aunt what I could do to help my arms be less sore. I'm still closer to 16 than 17, unfortunately. But I'm hoping Mom just leaves me here now, that she doesn't have to deal with me or even see me. Commenter 3. NTA, and frankly I feel the same way about your mother as you do. It would have been better for everyone if she was the one that was gone. You owe nothing to an abusive, violent, tantruming narcissist and her flying monkey. Next time she assaults you, call the cops. Now your extended family is aware of her abuse. You can just wait until you're 18 and never ever set eyes on her again. Reply: That's how I feel. I'm sure Dad would have been devastated to lose Mom too, but I like to think both my parents wouldn't abandon and then turn on me like this. She doesn't even feel like my mom anymore. Commenter 4. Huge NTA. As a widow with 3 kids, one of which is around your age, this is all on your mom. She neglected you then and now. I know that grief comes in many ways, but she wasn't just a wife, she is also a mother, and she's failed you in so many ways. If I had to guess, you remind her of your dad and she's trying to get away from the grief. She has never properly processed her grief and instead is just throwing band-aids with the new relationship. BC, she doesn't feel the pain of grief. If your paternal grandparents can, have them petition for custody. This is one of the few instances that grandparents' rights would be successful. Stories number 9. Aita, for still getting on a flight home when my 2 young co-workers I was traveling with weren't at the airport yet and were obviously going to miss it. TLDR, went on a work trip with 2 junior employees not on my team and they missed the flight home because they went sightseeing the day we were leaving. I still got on flight even though they weren't at the airport. This past week I was presented with an industry award in Nashville that an agency partner nominated me for. I am a director at my company. My co decided to send 2 junior-level employees to the event as well because they thought it would be a good experience for them, a specialist who has been with us a little over a year, 25F, first job out of college, and a summer intern, 21F, rising senior. They are not on my team, report up through separate VP, and I have very limited no interaction with them in daily work life. They were very excited to be going. This was going to be the specialist's first time on a plane, lots of Teams chats asking what to wear, etc. We were flying in Thursday morning and leaving Friday evening, so it was a very short trip, but I tried to help share info about the event, types of attendees, awards reception/presentation Thursday night with a country western theme, then I was speaking on a panel Friday morning. There's so much I could say, but I'll try to highlight key points. Specialist barely made Thursday AM flight because she doesn't have a real ID and had to do extra screening. She had no idea what a real ID was, or the basic rules of flying, liquid restrictions, etc. She was very upset they made her throw away some of her skincare that was over 3 ounces. Thursday night event was country western theme, and while a majority of people there were business casual, intern shows up in a bandana tube top, micro skirt, cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. I pulled her aside and asked if she wanted to run upstairs and change since it was still a business event, but she said she was fine and she thought she looked cute and on theme. After ceremony I invite them to join me with some colleagues I knew from other companies in the hotel bar, but they tell me they want to check out Broadway. I make a face and say this would be a good networking opportunity. They make "come on mom" jokes, and so I tell them to be safe and remind them the time and location of first session the next day. Text them around 11 p.m. that I hope they got back safe, no response. Went to bed. Text them the next morning offering to meet them for coffee before morning sessions, no response. No idea if they actually attended any sessions or saw my panel, but I did find them in the hotel lobby afterward looking incredibly hungover. Have about 2 hours after event is over and before we need to go to the airport, I invite them to late lunch with our agency partners. They decline because they want to go to the Country Music Hall of Fame. Again, make a face and say I don't know if they will have time and I think it would be a good opportunity for them to spend time with our agency. They act like I'm the wet blanket, so I tell them I'm leaving for airport from the hotel at 4 p.m. sharp and meet me in lobby so we can share a lift. Text them at 3:45 p.m. that lift is arriving in 15 minutes, no response. Text them that lift has arrived and I'm leaving for airport, no response. Text them when I get to airport and tell them security line is long, neither had pre-check, no response. Text them when I get to gate to please give me some sign of life, in turn sends very short response about 10 minutes later, in lift, there's traffic. Nothing else. Text them flight is starting to board, no response. Text them when I'm in my seat that boarding is about to end, no response. Doors close, they don't make it, put my phone in airplane mode. Land a couple hours later to a barrage of texts from them. They're stranded in Nashville, don't know what to do, how to rebook, who to call for help, etc. I also have an angry voicemail from specialist's mom that I abandoned her daughter in Nashville, she has never flown and has anxiety, she's having a panic attack at the airport and needs medical attention, she could be human trafficked. I call specialist and in turn back, both phones ring but neither pick up. Text to see if they were able to rebook, no response. Forward them email with our business travel info with after hours contact and text them that I sent the email, no response. Texted an hour or so later to see if they were okay, no response. Did not call the mom back. Also have text from their director, don't know her well, just started with a couple weeks ago asking what's going on. I sent her brief overview and screenshots of all my unanswered texts to them from earlier in the day along with the transcript of the VM I got from the mom. She acknowledges my response, but no further dialogue. Now, I get an invite for a Monday morning meeting from that director with their VP and our C-suite leader. My VP is on PTO, I feel like these are adults, I was communicative, and I'm ultimately not responsible for their decisions. But you tell me, AITA here. Comments. Commenter 1. They seem to have mistook a business trip for a vacation. Also they acted irresponsibly around time, dressing, and networking possibilities. None of this is your fault. You are not their mother. You treated them like the adults they are, the fact that they didn't act like adults is not on you. NTA. Commenter 2. Did they do anything work-related? I'd sack them. Reply. When we arrived on Thursday they did attend the opening keynote speaker and a couple of breakout sessions. It just started to go downhill at the award ceremony. Commenter 3. You were there as their co-worker, not as their mother. Firstly, no one should be expecting you to take care of them in that way. They're adults. And even when you did offer them direction and support, they didn't even have the decency to get back to you. And a call from her mom? Good Christ. I would come prepared with documentation and also let your supervisor know, even if they're on PTO, that this is what was happening. Commenter 4. I think that OP went incredibly above and beyond here considering that it was a work event she was receiving an award at, so to have these junior idiots causing any type of fuss was really an unnecessary hassle for her when it should have been a personal celebration. Reply. Okay, thank you so much for saying this because I took it out of my main post since it was so long already, but I made a short acceptance speech after getting the award. I worked really hard on it and practiced a lot. It was only like 90 seconds, but I asked specialist and intern to film it for me because I wanted to share it with my team members who helped me with it. Left my phone with them and everything, but they forgot, and that kind of upset me. It's obvi not the end of the world, but like, come on. Reply. Commenter 4. Maybe contact the group who sponsored this event and ask if there is any film which can be copied for you. You did everything you could, and it's smart to have saved all of that documentation. Print it all out from the beginning with several copies to take to this meeting. I cannot imagine that you can be faulted for any stupid behavior from these fools. You were not given a directive to babysit them. Stories number 10. AITA for throwing away a gift after my boyfriend made fun of it in front of his friends. So I 22F and my boyfriend 25M have been dating for about 6 months. A little while ago for his birthday I made him a small gift. It was a handmade mini scrapbook with some photos, tickets from stuff we did together, personal notes, etc. I spent a decent amount of time on it because I wanted to do something thoughtful instead of just buying something generic. When I gave it to him he was sweet about it. Said he loved it, put it up on his shelf. I thought that was that. Anyway, a few days later we were hanging out and drinking with some of his friends and the topic of his gifts came up. My boyfriend kind of laughed and described mine as middle school relationship core. His friends laughed. He wasn't outright mocking me, but the way he kept describing it all and the contents like it was something childish made me feel embarrassed. I smiled and laughed along, but inside I felt kind of crushed. I didn't say anything then, but I cried when I got home. Afterwards I quietly took it and threw it away. I know that might sound petty, but I was in my feelings and it just felt like a joke seeing it now, not something sweet. Like I was the only one taking it seriously. I know he doesn't really keep anything sentimental, he keeps his place clean and decorations to a minimum, so maybe I should have just gotten him something practical for his birthday instead of making something he had no use for. He noticed it was gone yesterday and asked where it went. I told him I threw it out, and when I explained why, he told me I was being dramatic. Said it was just a stupid joke, that I always take things too personally, and that if anything I'd overreacted instead of just telling him before. Now I feel kind of dumb. I know he didn't mean to hurt my feelings, but it still stung. And I'm wondering Aita by taking it so personally and escalating by throwing the thing away, so now he feels like the bad guy. Edit. I forgot to mention he'd apologized and took me out while still adding those other comments. He explained that we were all tipsy when he'd said it and that I'd just taken it a step too far, which is why I'm torn on how to feel about it all. Yes, we've been together for 6 months but known each other for nearly 2 years, so it included even stuff from way before. Comments. Commenter 1. Don't stay with someone who's comfortable making fun of you in front of his friends. God only knows what he's saying behind your back. You deserve better. Commenter 2. I hope you mean ex-boyfriend. He was outright mocking you. Then instead of owning his meanness he blamed you. Red flag walking. NTA. Commenter 3. He did mean to hurt your feelings by using such a belittling description of your thoughtful gift. He's still hurting your feelings and hasn't even thought to apologize. Commenter 4. He was mocking you, the gift, and your NTA for throwing it away. However, and this doesn't excuse his behavior, this sounds like a gift you would like to get and not something he would appreciate. I know for a fact that if I made my partner a gift like this, he would be completely gobsmacked because he had no interest in mementos and sentimental things. He likes practical gifts that align with his interests and hobbies. Waiting for the downvotes because all gifts are equal and nobody is entitled to a gift. Stories number 11. I made a compliment to my girlfriend and now she won't stop asking me if I was serious. It happened 4 days ago. I came home from work as every other day when I found on the couch my girlfriend, our 2 baby girls of 3 years and our 5 dogs napping all together, and my girlfriend there awake trying hard to reach for the phone with a hand. Just to describe the scene, our 2 baby girls on my girlfriend's belly and chest and our 5 dogs spread all around the couch snoring like they worked 16 hours. So I just went in, saw the scene and just looked and said, well, if this isn't happiness I don't know what it is. But the thing that caught me off guard was my girlfriend that started to get emotional and asked me if I was serious because my hair is messy and dirty. This 2 little demons stopped fighting 5 minutes ago for a toy and then just fell asleep on me like I was a pillow, and this 5 furry things are snoring like there is no tomorrow. You sure this is happiness? I just laughed and told her that I was pretty sure. We kissed and I found a tiny empty space between our dogs and my girlfriend and we all cuddled there. A sweet scene of course, but I didn't knew that my simple compliment meant so much to my girlfriend because until today my girlfriend kept asking me about my compliment and if I was sure about it, and every time I say yes she gets emotional and tells me, thank you honey, you have no idea how much it means to me. So I'm not sure about this because I really didn't thought much of it, but apparently to my girlfriend means really a lot. At this point I think that it was the genuinely of my worlds that caught her off guard because I don't have any other explanation, hahaha. So simple yet so powerful. Edit. WTF. I just went back to my post and wasn't expecting for sure this. Thanks to everyone for the kind words and comments, and I still can't believe that a simple episode like this could attract so much attention, so again thank you all. You're right to say that my girlfriend needed my words more than I can imagine, and honestly it happened other times that I would say stuff like this, but like I said it's the first time she bring it up for days, haha. And a special thanks to the user that suggested a spa day for my girlfriend because actually it's a great idea for her and I think it will help her to feel less stressed and overwhelmed, so maybe I will update you when I will book it. Again thank you all. Comments. Commenter 1. I can't really say what your partner may be feeling, but I would have said the same thing you did if it were me. There is nothing more special and heartwarming than seeing your loved ones all together, at peace, looking cute and natural. It's the best. I think some women tend to feel that they need to be presentable all the time, and that it all has to look and appear perfectly in order for them to feel like they deserve the love and attention. Obviously, that isn't true. I don't know about anyone else, but seeing your woman, sweaty, messy hair, and baggy clothes from a long day of cleaning and doing the things is sexy as hell. I can't help but smile. I don't care about how they look or that they are sweaty and tired. I like to look and see this person that I love, thriving naturally in the environment we built together. Being the truest them, just existing. That's true love, man. Commenter 2. As a woman, she probably felt like the ugliest goblin to ever goblin. She was probably feeling unattractive and unkempt, remembering how you used to look at her when she'd pretty herself up for you on dates, but now she's overtouched and nothing but a bag of fleshed meat. And then you come along and give her that same look, as if she were all dolled up and looking just as pretty as she did on those dates. I'm sure that look you gave her in that moment and those words you said hit her at the core of her current insecurities and just melted her heart. She's asking to reassure herself that she really heard you say that when she was feeling at her ugliest, and I bet she's so thankful that you still think she's pretty and that she brings you happiness. So, good job. Try and give her more words like that when she's deep in the middle of chaos, she'll love you for it. Stories number 12. This is the dress code on my wedding website. Any feedback or advice? Hi everyone. My save the dates are being sent out today, so in a few days, my wedding site is about to be finally viewed and used. Before it becomes official, what do you all think of my dress code? Is it too much or confusing in any way? I'm also considering getting rid of the gentlemen and ladies distinction to make it NB inclusive and just having a general paragraph. Would that wall of text be too much to look at? The wedding is in September in Ireland and held indoors at a 5-star hotel, with a potential indoor-outdoor cocktail hour, weather dependent. That information is provided in the next FAQ below this one. We want the vibes to be upscale, but not stuffy. I'd love it if people went whimsical and really went for it with having fun with their outfit choice, so that's why I included the last paragraph. Thanks all. Text from invite. What should I wear? We'd love to see our family and friends dress with us. The dress code is cocktail to formal attire. Gentlemen, we kindly ask that you wear a suit with or without a tie or a dress shirt with trousers. Ladies, evening gowns, dressy separates, or midi to knee-length cocktail dresses are all great options. Don't be afraid to have fun with color, pattern, and texture. If you've been waiting for an excuse to wear a fairy tale ball gown or a floral suit, this is your moment. If classic and understated is more your vibe, that's perfect too. Dress to impress and have fun with it, in your own way. Comments. Commenter 1. You say cocktail to formal but then in the description go anything from semi-formal to black tie. You've added so much conflicting information, it's made it confusing and effectively given men and women different dress codes. I would have no idea which end of the spectrum I'm meant to be at. If you're worried that people won't want to wear a tie, then just make it semi-formal to cocktail and drop the bits about ball gowns or floor-length dresses. If you think they might dress up more, then drop the stuff about not needing a tie or jacket. When guests are this varied, you're going to have people feeling uncomfortably over or underdressed or both. Commenter 2. I hate when dress codes are like, women, you absolutely must buy something new and fancy. Guys, please show up. Just say cocktail or formal attire for everyone and leave it at that. No ties plus evening gowns doesn't make sense to me. Update. Hi everyone. Wow, did I not expect my original post to get so many views and comments. Just about as soon as I had posted it, my cousin dropped by, so my phone was away, then I checked it to see it had so many comments and was locked. So unfortunately I wasn't able to reply to anyone really. I was genuinely expecting like 10 comments max. Because it was locked before I could reply to anyone, I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who commented. It helped me see clearly just how confusing I was being. My intention was to be so broad it would ease people's minds, that they could wear what they had or have fun with it, buy something new, and get super dressy if they wanted. But it ended up being so broad it was just plain confusing. Also, thank you to those who pointed out it wasn't fair that men could go more casual while women weren't. You're absolutely right, and I should have noticed that and seen how that would look. Uneasy face. To answer a question from many people, I am from the US and my fiancé is from the UK. It is a destination wedding for both of us, but Ireland ended up being sort of a middle ground equivalent for us because it was one of the few direct flights both our families could take. He did in fact think it was odd to put a dress code, but my side of the family, knowing them, would absolutely all be calling or texting me wanting to know what to wear. So thank you all again for your helpful advice. I wanted to post this and assure you all I changed it. I combined 2 helpful comments into something that's hopefully clearer, so extra thank you to those 2. Updated invite. Text from invite. What should I wear? The dress code is formal. We invite our guests to wear floor-length dresses, formal cocktail dresses, pantsuits, suits, or tuxes. We love to see our family and friends express their unique personalities, so feel free to dress colorfully and whimsically if you wish. Comments. Commenter 1. I mean this in the nicest way. You are still listing too many attire options. Formal, cocktail, and black tie. Tuxes, black tie are all different dress codes. Pick one. Commenter 2. It got shorter, and somehow worse. OP, please consider just this, formal. It's one succinct word. Chances are you may get some cocktail dresses anyway. Commenter 3. Formal attire preferred requested, color encouraged. You still have too many words and options. Make it simple. Update. Hi everyone. My new one was still too contradictory and I'm just doing too much still lol. Thanks for everyone's feedback again. I kept it nice and simple and will stick with this one. Simple invite. Text from invite. What should I wear? The dress code is formal. We look forward to our friends and family dressing up with us. Comments. Commenter 1. Very nice. I appreciate what you were going for with the other versions. But the truth is, most people aren't going to follow formal with the same fervor as this sub. They will just know to dress up. I hope you have a beautiful day and delightful years to come with the one you love. Commenter 2. Hey, I just wanted to say that you take criticism very well. Edit. You take criticism well. Reply. Thank you so much. It helps that I know everyone has kind intentions and are trying to help me and my guests. It was much needed and very appreciated. Stories number 13. Aita for not co-signing a mortgage agreement for my parents. I 21F have been asked by my parents to co-sign a home mortgage worth $200K with my brother 22M. For context, my dad and brother lives 3 hours away from my mom and my other siblings because of work. I live in another province for military posting reasons. My dad and brother are currently paying rent, and they're looking to buy a house. However, my dad has filed for bankruptcy and my brother has only been working for 3 months at his new job, so he might not get approved. That's why they need me to co-sign for my name and ID. They told me I won't be paying anything because I won't need to put my banking information. That my brother and dad will pay it and I just have to act as a co-signer. This is my first time doing something like this, especially taking in a big commitment such as a home that I won't even be living in. So naturally I started researching about it. I learnt that if my brother fails to pay it off on time and whatnot, I am financially responsible for it. I asked my mom questions of what it would mean for me to co-sign. I'm pretty hesitant because of my dad's past history of being in debt. She did not take it well. She said, why am I thinking negatively of things? If I really loved my dad I wouldn't even think in this way and just say yes. I told her it's because I want to think of things realistically and don't want to be in debt in case my brother can't pay things off. She said that my distrust in my dad is unfair. And that this is the only help I'll be giving towards my family and I can't even do it. Mind you, I'm paying for my mom and siblings' house insurance, my mom's phone bill, and other miscellaneous things that they need money for. Now she said she doesn't want me to do it at all because of how I reacted. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. If you co-sign a loan, it is your debt. You are fully responsible. Your credit rating and ability to borrow money for yourself in the future will reflect that. Don't do it, period. Commenter 2. NTA. Do not co-sign ever, family or not. Kudos for doing your research, do not fall for the guilt trip. Commenter 3. This is financial abuse of a child. The reason neither your dad nor brother can get a loan is because they have proven themselves to be a risk. They are conning you into signing for them. What do you think this is? Just a quick signature. Co-signing means they can come after you if your family defaults on the loan. They will find your bank or property or job and they will put a lien on property and ruin your credit and life. NTA. Do not co-sign this loan. Commenter 4. Oh, hell and oh no. Even if they have earnest intentions, if your brother dies unexpectedly, you are on the hook for all of it. They can rent a while longer while brother establishes his credit. Stories number 14. Aita for telling my now adult kids that I'm disappointed they judge me for remarrying after we lost their mother. I was a widower in my early 40s after my wife, and the mother of my 2 oldest children, passed away. Our kids were 12 and 13 when she passed. It was 4 years before I dated again and it took a few months to meet my now wife. I spoke to my kids when it was happening and they appeared supportive at the time. But as soon as I was actually married again they pulled away from me and I noticed they were closer to my dad, who has been a widower for more than 40 years now and never dated or remarried. My adult kids both in their 20s have made many excuses to not see us and they met their younger brother once and never held him or interacted with him. They tell me they're too busy when I try to make plans with them but they never fail to spend time with Grandpa. I finally asked them if we could meet and talk, just the 3 of us, and they were agreeable. We met for coffee and I asked them why they had pulled away and I directly asked if they were really not okay that I had remarried. I told them I had believed them when they said it was okay with them to do so at the time. They asked me what they were supposed to say when I asked and I said the truth because it would have been easier to talk things through more. They told me that when I started dating again it changed how they saw me. They thought I was loyal and actually loved their mom as much as my dad loved my mom. But I saw myself moving on while my dad never could or wanted to. They said my decision to date after losing their mother was like the end of our family, and they were closer to my dad because they admired his dedication to my mom and they realized he was the example they wanted to follow, not me. They also said they felt I dishonored their mom by visiting her grave when I decided she wasn't special enough to be my one true love and loved someone else. I asked if they had always felt this way and they said yes. They told me they were so disappointed in me when they realized I was thinking of dating again. I told them I was equally disappointed in them for judging me for remarrying. I told them I would always love their mom, and to hear them question that and to accuse me of dishonoring her was hurtful. They told me I had started over and even had another kid, so I should just focus on that because they do not wish to be a part of the family anymore. And they told me I didn't get to be disappointed in them when I had the perfect example growing up and decided to replace their mom. They left and that was the last we spoke, although it wasn't too long ago. Comments. Commenter 1. My sister's husband died when their kids were 10 and 5. About 7 years later my sister was engaged to her eventual second husband and the 17-year-old was struggling with the idea. She said she felt like their family was just fine the way it was and she didn't see why my sister should want to remarry. I asked her if she was planning to devote her life to being my sister's companion and she just stared at me. Because of course she wasn't planning on that, she was very independent and already had her college plans laid out. I think it really made her think about how all their lives were going to change as the kids grew older and left home, and she realized that it was unrealistic to expect her mother to live alone for the rest of her life just because her first husband had died. Commenter 2. They're saying you'd be better off as a lonely widower than happy with someone else. That sounds less like loyalty and more on trying to win an award for most gloomy family dynamics. Commenter 3. NTA. Tell them you hope they never lose a partner young and have to face the rest of their life with nobody but ungrateful children who would leave home as soon as possible anyway. Ask them, what were you supposed to do, mourn forever, switch off your life? Your father may have chosen to do that, but it was his choice to do. Reply. They told me my dad proved there is a way to keep living a happy life without remarrying. They had a very long explanation about the way they felt and why. Commenter 4. Did you ask if maybe they just don't like the woman you decided to marry? You don't know how she treats them when they're alone together. Reply. I did. It has nothing to do with her as a person and everything to do with the fact I wanted to date in the first place and then remarried and so on. Stories number 15. My husband walked out after I had a panic attack. I'm alone with our baby. 31F and 34M. I'm a stay-at-home mom to our 10-month-old daughter. I moved away from my entire support system to be with my husband, who promised to provide and be an involved father. He was the one who wanted a baby. He was the one who said he wanted me home with her. We agreed before pregnancy that we'd share the load. I'd take care of most of the baby and house stuff since I'd be home, but I still expected help and support. That was the plan, and I've kept up my end. I keep our house clean and organized, do all the laundry for me and the baby, clean the kitchen while I cook, tidy up toys, feed her solids, nurse her, and change diapers every 2 hours. I take her to doctor appointments, music class, and make her bottles. I try to make extra dinner so he has food to take to work. She's happy, thriving, and loved. I may be tired, but I still show up for her every day. He works 8 to 4. But lately, he and his mom have started pushing this idea that he shouldn't have to lift a finger with the baby after work. They act like I should be doing everything alone, as if asking for help makes me a bad mom or wife. That's not what we agreed to. I don't expect 50-50. But I do expect to be treated like I matter too. Things between us have gotten tense. I've asked for counseling but he always brushes it off. He says he can't talk to me because I get loud. I don't scream or get out of control, but I do get emotional and passionate when I feel ignored. I've been begging for communication and trying to fix things. The other night, I had a panic attack. I screamed into a pillow behind a closed door while the baby was in another room. I was overwhelmed and trying to cope silently. His response was to call me toxic, hand me our sleeping baby, and walk out. He said he was going to a friend's house, but the friend said he never showed. Then he ignored my calls, turned off his location, and I found out later he checked into a hotel. He still hasn't come back. No answers except that he refuses to be in the same house as me. Now he's saying I should fly home to my parents and leave the baby with him, so his mom can fly in and care for her. After everything I've done, he wants to take her from me. To make things worse, they're now trying to twist it and say I'm not doing a good job because I was on my phone too much during our recent family vacation. I was burned out. His family was there, so I finally had a minute to breathe. Meanwhile, he complains about giving her baths or doing bedtime. He plays video games while watching her. But I'm the bad mom because I scrolled on my phone while she was surrounded by family. I've never felt so discarded. I gave up everything to be here and raise this baby. I do everything and still get painted as the problem just for needing support. I'm financially stuck. I have no family here. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying and I don't deserve to be made to feel like I'm nothing. If you've been through anything like this, or have advice, please share. I just feel so alone. Update: I just want to clarify something that a few people were concerned about. I'm 1000% taking my baby with me. No matter how exhausted or broken down I feel, I could never leave her. She is my whole world and I've been her full-time caregiver since day one. We rent and while he's the main leaseholder, I've poured just as much into this home. While I was pregnant I worked as a nanny and used that money to buy all of our daughter's furniture, toys, and baby gear. I also sold a lot of my own things to help furnish the house. Probably 80% of what's here is mine. I plan on flying back home Monday with my daughter and staying at my parents' house until we figure out the next step. He's going to have a conversation with me at some point. The hardest part is not knowing what happens after that. The car I've been driving is in his name, and without it I won't be able to get a job. My parents live in an area that isn't safe to walk or take public transportation, especially with a baby. I would hope we can work something out where I keep the car, but since he won't talk to me, I really don't know what to expect. Any advice from anyone who's been in a similar situation would mean a lot right now. Stories number 16. Aita for saying my parents will never be able to make up for making me feel like I wasn't good enough when they neglected me throughout my childhood in an effort to have more kids. My parents had me 19 when they were 19 and 20 themselves. When I was 6 months old they started trying for another baby but could not get pregnant. I'm still an only child today and they have dedicated the last 18.5 years to having more kids. They have spent crazy money on IVF and other fertility treatments. They have neglected everyone else in their lives, including me, in this attempt to become parents again. As a kid I was in no extracurriculars because my parents were saving/spending the money to have more kids. There were weeks at a time where I had no money in my school lunch account and my parents didn't make me a lunch so teachers had to give me extra stuff they had on standby. Speaking of school I never got enough school supplies and would be sent in with used pens and pencils my parents had around the house. I used one of my dad's old backpacks for stuff and my parents were the only ones who never donated a single supply to the classroom. And I got shit for it way too much. They never showed up for PT conferences. They ignored requests from my guidance counselor in high school to meet and discuss stuff. And from my high school therapist who wanted us to talk stuff out. I never got to attend birthday parties because my parents never made time for it. They never let me have friends over because they didn't want to feed them or let them drink anything at our house. When I got invited over to friends' houses they let me go and wouldn't pick me up on time. One time my friend's mom was going to call the cops because it was 4+ hours after they were meant to pick me up and they weren't answering their phones. I gave them a number for my grandparents and they picked me up. Whenever we were around extended family all my parents could talk about was fertility treatments and having babies. There were a lot of times when they both said they just wanted to have kids and hated not being able to. Other times they did say they wanted more kids but also added that they hated feeling like they had to settle for one. We didn't always have as much food in the house as we should because my parents would do anything to save for treatment. I never got new clothes unless all my old ones were so worn down they couldn't be worn again. One time I had only 2 outfits to alternate between, and each and every time they went for treatment it failed and they cried and talked about how unfair it was they were denied this and I had to listen to it. I spent a lot of my time between 16 and 18 sleeping at friends' houses a lot. I also got a part-time job. Then on my birthday I went to stay with a friend's family for several weeks and then 4 of my friends and I started renting a place together. I had contact with extended family throughout but I always felt like they weren't there enough for me even though they knew I told them what was going on. But now they're talking about how my parents are getting older, won't be able to try forever, and have asked me to have compassion and understanding when they try to form a relationship with me. Extended family argue they are still my parents and I should forgive them for not being the best. And that I should let them make it up to me when the time comes. I told my extended family that my parents can never make up for neglecting me in their effort to have more kids and I can never forgive them for making me feel like I wasn't good enough. I told them my therapy bill will be huge by the end and my parents caused it all. They fucked me up and left me with the bill. My extended family said I'm not understanding my parents' position. Stories number 17. To fool when I invited a homeless person to a house party. Last night I 24M convinced a random homeless man to come with me to a house party. I was very high when I made this decision. The house party was also a costume party. I had an extra costume, but not an extra person, so Stone Me was like, why not go out and find an extra person? The homeless man in my street was at the top of my list of potential candidates. I approached him and asked if he was keen to go to a house party dressed as a stormtrooper. He asked if there would be food. I said yes. And alcohol. Homeless man was in. We showed up at the house party together. I was dressed as Jesus. White robe, crown of thorns, hippie hair, you know, the conventional version. The homeless man was dressed from head to toe as an average stormtrooper. I encouraged him to avoid removing his helmet and drawing too much attention. A suggestion, not an instruction. I didn't keep an eye on the homeless man for the entire night. He did his thing. I did mine. From time to time I caught him low-key lifting his helmet above his mouth to eat or drink when he thought no one was watching. Seeing that convinced me that I did the right thing. The homeless man was having a good time and my stormtrooper costume did not go to waste. A win-win. Like I said, I was high. If you're reading this, something obviously went wrong. I found out when it was too late that another person at the party was also wearing a stormtrooper costume. That stormtrooper was at the party with his girlfriend, who at some point confused the two stormtroopers and ended up grind dancing with the homeless stormtrooper. The BF stormtrooper noticed his girlfriend enthusiastically rubbing her but on another person's crotch and wasted zero time introducing his fist to that recipe. I was not there to witness what happened in person, and even if I was, I doubt I would have been sober enough to realize what was going on. I've heard more than one version of the story. Some say the two stormtroopers fought each other until the unknown stormtrooper lost the fight and ran away. Others say the unknown stormtrooper won the fight and then ran away. That being said, everyone agreed that one of the stormtroopers did indeed run away. No one knows it was my stormtrooper who ran away with my costume. I really liked that costume. Now I might never see it again. TLDR, I invited a homeless man to a costume party and gave him my stormtrooper costume. If any of you spot a stormtrooper sleeping on the streets, please tell him to return my costume. Update. A couple of years ago, I invited a homeless man to a house party. No idea why I did what I did, but since I had a decent amount of drugs in my system, I was like, the drugs made me do it. Because it was a house party where people were encouraged to wear costumes, I convinced the homeless man to wear my stormtrooper costume so that no one could see his face. I dressed up as Jesus. Fast forward to the homeless stormtrooper bumping and grinding with a random girl at the house party. The girl was under the impression that she was grinding on her BF, who happened to be dressed up as a stormtrooper too. Chaos erupted when the BF appeared and apparently became physical with the homeless stormtrooper. I didn't see what happened, but based on eyewitness testimonies, the homeless stormtrooper fled the scene. I never thought I would see the homeless man or my stormtrooper costume again. But I did. Yesterday. Years later. I was walking in the park. As one does. With a girl. We were on our second date. Things were going well until a fucking clone of Tom Hanks in Castaway appeared out of nowhere and surprised us. I didn't know who the guy was or what he wanted, until he pointed at himself and repeatedly said, "Star Wars," enough times for me to finally be like, no fucking way, it's the homeless stormtrooper. As soon as the homeless stormtrooper noticed my confusion turn into realization, he unexpectedly closed the gap between us and gave me a bro hug like we were buddies. It was awkward, but I allowed it because I kind of felt guilty for how things turned out the last time he saw me. I introduced my date to the homeless stormtrooper and explained to her how we knew each other. The homeless stormtrooper encouraged us to follow him to his tent so we could see that he still had the stormtrooper costume. I pointed out the time and explained to the homeless stormtrooper that we were on our way to see the new Fantastic Four movie and we didn't want to be late. My date responded and said we still had loads of time before the movie begins, which prompted the homeless stormtrooper to lead us to his tent. The homeless stormtrooper entered his tent alone and came out like 3 minutes later wearing the stormtrooper costume. My date was really impressed. I did my best to match her energy, but all I could think about was not missing the movie. The homeless stormtrooper disappeared into the tent again before reappearing with a skateboard and doing tricks for us. My date, who seemed to have forgotten we were supposed to be bonding and shit, took her phone out and proceeded to film the homeless stormtrooper for her TikTok or whatever. Meanwhile, another person emerged from the tent. I kid you not, this person literally looked identical to the homeless stormtrooper. I didn't ask, but I figured they were twins. The homeless twin approached me and offered to sell me condoms. The guy lifted his shirt and revealed a fucking belt made of condoms strapped to his waist. I said no thank you, but he refused to take no for an answer, saying that he could tell what size condom I used just by shaking my hand, which made no fucking sense to me. My date overheard this shit and encouraged me to shake hands with the homeless twin. To please my date, I played along and shook the dude's hand. Needless to say, it was no ordinary handshake. The homeless twin didn't let go of my hand for at least 30 seconds before pointing at one of the condoms on his belt and saying, "Regular." My date asked me if that was accurate. I was like, what are the odds of me being average like most people on Earth? My sarcasm didn't land and I ended up paying the homeless twin for his overpriced and expired condoms just to make him leave me alone. I was just about to inform my date that it was time for us to go, but then the homeless stormtrooper fell off of his skateboard. After helping him get back on his feet and making sure he was 100% okay, I gave him some money and said goodbye. We were late for the movie, which I already paid for, so I had to book another time slot, and pay again for both me and my date. In other words, I paid twice the price, for an IMAX show in 3D, which is not cheap. On top of that, I had to pay a condom whisperer for prehistoric condoms and a skateboarding cosplayer for existing I guess. Weirdest and most expensive second date of my life so far. TLDR, I allowed my date with a cute girl to get hijacked by homeless twins and paid the price for it, literally. Final comments. Commenter 1. I got to where you said, she seemed to forget you were supposed to be bonding. My dude, that was what was happening way more than a movie could offer. Reply. My date had the same reaction, which I appreciate. I guess I'm still processing the fact that all the positives about this experience were sponsored by the homeless twins. I think I might actually visit them again and show my gratitude. I'll bring condoms that are not expired. Stories number 18. Aita for giving gifts to my son's half-siblings when I go to see my son, even if they are not my kids. I am 32 and 8 years ago, from a short fling, I have a son. My son's mother was a single mother of 2 at the time, and has had 1 more kid after then. My son is 7. It was a messy ordeal at first, and I was convinced he wasn't my kid, but DNA test, yada yada, and it was proved he was my kid. She didn't sue me for child support, as she didn't have the funds, but I was not gonna let my son grow up without money, so we have an agreement. I pay her around 3 to 4K a month. I work sales and get a bonus yearly, so I pay more during the holiday season and I make mid 100K range, so it is more than what the court would have ordered, but I want to be fair. She has said sometimes she uses my money on her other kids, and that is whatever. All this to say, I think I am pretty fair. Whenever I go bring a meal to my kid, or give him a Consolia Switch 2 recently, I tell him to share it with his siblings or I bring them a meal too so they can all eat together. I even give them all presents for their birthday, so they don't feel left out when I only give presents to my kid. I am not a holier-than-thou guy, I just want him to have a good relationship with his siblings, and if money and gifts allow that, I am okay with it. Last thing I want is his siblings to resent him for favoritism. Once his mom and I are gone, they will be his only family, which is why I treat them well, and even let my money being used for his other siblings slide. His sister has a father who tries his best. I will call him Mark 36M. Recently, he reached out to me, and said when I bring gifts for my son, he would prefer it if my son did not share them, and if I could stop giving gifts to his daughter. So, apparently, his daughter 13 is now comparing him to me, and is saying that I give her better gifts or whatever, and see them more. She apparently said she wishes I was her dad. I told Mark that I will see what I can do, but now I feel kinda bad. Mark is the only other father who is genuinely trying, from what I can tell, and maybe I set the standards too high. My son's mother made the mistake of telling his daughter that I also fund some of their lifestyle, since I pay the most in child support. I feel bad about all this. The girl seemed kinda sweet, so I am surprised she would say things like this to her dad. She helps my son with his HW, and is a good older sister to him, so I feel like I have been treating her as she treats my kid. Nothing more, nothing less. Why my son's mother brought financial information to her kids, and now what to do about Mark. I don't want to change how I treat my son's siblings, because I don't want him to have a bad relationship with them. My parents treated my younger brother better than me and I have a not so great relationship with him now cause of that, and I just don't want the same for my kid. So Aita for going above and beyond, just for the sake of my son being treated better by his siblings at the cost of Mark and his daughter's relationship. Edit, seeing comments about making a trust fund and college stuff for my son. Just wanted to put this out there. I also made a comment explaining he does have a trust and a 529 plan. His mother is not aware of these, but he does have these, and money is going here aside from the money I give her. I was helped through college by my folks, and I plan on doing the same for him. Also, I own the apartment I live in, and he will be receiving it. He has also included my parents' will as well, with a separate trust they have given him, in which I will be the guarantor until he is 25. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA but Mark has a valid complaint. Can you work with him? Find a middle ground where he feels comfortable. You've explained yourself well here, so you could do the same with Mark. I'm sure his daughter's word stabbed him through the heart. The here is your ex. She needs to be held accountable for the harm she's done by running her mouth about money to her children. You have a ton of leverage here. Use it for the greater good and make her clean up her mess. This is a great spot for you and Mark to stand united, for the good of all the children. Edited to add, perhaps lean into experiences over gifts with the other children. I'm thinking a double the dad's day, where you and Mark take all the kids to dinner and a movie, skating, paintball, whatever you can come up with. Kids really want your time more than anything else. I was hurt as a child by the attention given my stepsister after my father remarried. It came from her grandparents, but my father ignored it, and though I'm 65 now, it's still one of my most painful memories. You are a good man for doing what you're doing. A bit of a tweak can really turn this situation from a mild negative to a resounding positive for all concerned. Commenter 2, NTA. You're doing a good thing for your son and it's kind of you to help your son's siblings. You should talk to your son's mom though and let her know when you're gonna keep on doing what you've been doing, and 2 to stop talking about the money you sent her because her yapping about it is causing issues. Commenter 3. I really commend you for your actions and the reasons for them. Mark needs to understand cutting off your generosity at this point will only damage their relationship. He may not be able to match your financial contributions, but he can certainly put as much time and effort into connecting with his daughter, in person or not. He should be thankful for your subsidies. Keep up the great work, Dad. NTA. Commenter 4. NTA. I think it's lovely that you include the other kids. Perhaps tone down what you spend on all of them, take the excess you would have spent and put it in a trust fund for your son. This way you are still gifting your son, but the ones everyone else sees is more in line with someone who has a smaller income. The rest is going to a trust for his future. Something he will very much appreciate in a few years, and possibly his whole life. Also still buy for the other kids, but make things less expensive. You're doing enough giving in her so much every month as that really helps her keep a good roof over all their heads in a safe neighborhood. Reply. Thank you, I will take it into consideration. My son does already have a trust, and the money I give his mother is not included in that. He has a trust and a 529 plan, separate from the money I give. I just haven't told his mother yet, because to be very frank, I believe if she knew I was putting money in there she would ask for more monthly, and that may take me over my monthly limit. I also want to start my own business, so I have been trying to put money aside for that as well, and I know it seems unrealistic, but I want to do everything without compromising on anything for now, but we will see. Stories number 19. The Muppet Joker. I 37 and my wife 35 have been arguing about this all week. Our nephew 22 has always been troubled, even though SL 44 and BL 48 have always treated him well. Some examples of his unsettling behavior. He was caught feeding one of BIL's horses avocados poisonous to horses to make it sick. I have dogs and don't want him to hurt them as well. He demands to be called the names of 2 specific fictional characters. He believes he is these characters, reincarnated. If you call him by his real name or refuse to go along with his delusions, he becomes aggressive. He carries around a plushie of one of these characters everywhere. There is a hole in the back. The hole is stained. I have tried not to jump to conclusions about what he does to that plushie and failed. It smells rancid, and honestly just thinking about the thing makes me want to vomit. I have tried so hard to be patient with his quirks, as my wife puts it, but what really pushed me over the edge was an incident that occurred a few weeks ago. For context, wife has struggled with infertility for our entire marriage, and we had given up on having our own kid until we recently discovered she is pregnant. Given the fact that she's 35, we have been surprised and overjoyed. A few weeks ago, wife started randomly getting rude texts from Nephew, insulting our baby. One text implied that our baby would have FAS, due to my wife's previous drinking problem, even though she has been sober for years. I wanted to call up that insensitive brat and tear into him, but wife insisted we gently let him know via text that we didn't appreciate his comments. When he kept going and my wife started crying, I called SAL. She was able to shut him down and get him to apologize. I have no idea what the hell got into him, but I suspect it has to do with his hatred of women. Wife believes that he may be on the spectrum, have undiagnosed mental illness, and that he needs to be treated patiently. I think he has been coddled his entire life and it has only made him worse. I think if someone doesn't put their foot down, his behavior will escalate into something dangerous. Here's where I may be TA. Each year, wife and I host Easter dinner for her entire family. Wife has already forgiven nephew for the incident and is insisting we invite him so that he isn't isolated from his family, something she believes will worsen his behavior. I see her reasoning, but enough is enough. I refused. I said she is being a doormat like everyone else in the family when it comes to him, and that our man-child of a nephew can't just make her cry and get away with it with an empty apology. Some of my friends are saying that I am being controlling and that I can't stop her from seeing her own family. I feel like I am going insane. Aita, on the plushie, his parents got it for him when he was a kid. They thought it was cute when he brought it everywhere. I think on some level, they still see him as a child, so they kind of refuse to acknowledge what he does to that thing. This bizarre series of events started on Easter and has only gotten weirder since. For those of you who did not read/don't remember my original post, my nephew was banned from our recent Easter dinner due to a concerning pattern of behavior, including recent disturbing text messages to my pregnant wife about her unborn child. Since then, his parents eventually agreed to not bring him after a lot of arguing. SIL nephew's mother eventually admitted that he may need professional help and that wife and I may have some reason to be worried for our safety around him. And on Easter, our worries were proven more than reasonable. He showed up uninvited, using BL's car. His parents came in SIL's car. Our dinner was interrupted by aggressive pounding on our door. I don't know how to put this without it sounding insane, so here goes. Nephew was at our door, holding a sword, and dressed as the Joker. He tried to say something, but I slammed the door in his face and told everyone inside what was going on. Chaos, predictably, ensued. BL, a generally calm guy who I have never seen freak out or get angry, turned beet red and went outside. He ended up literally chasing nephew around our house, screaming at him, in an attempt to get him to leave. Neighbors came outside and SIL went into damage control mode, talking down one concerned neighbor from calling the police somehow. He dropped his sword in the chase and BL tackled him on our front lawn. They got him into SIL's car somehow and they left with him. Easter dinner was ruined. Wife was in tears. I was so mad I was shaking. Good news is that this was a wake-up call for SIL and BL. Under threat of them withdrawing financial support, nephew has agreed to seek therapy and surrender access to his Tumblr blog, which he previously would spend hours a day posting on. His mother went through it and found a lot of alarming posts, including content about his hatred for women, screenshots posted of his text exchange with my wife with captions bragging about his hurtful behavior, and several disturbing fan fictions with violent sexual content. They believe him being too online is worsening his behavior and are hoping that limiting his access and forcing him into therapy will help. Final update. Thank you for the kind messages and advice in the comments. The situation is being taken seriously by BL, wife, and myself. SIL still has her head buried in the sand a bit, but we are working on it. At the very least, she has not lifted the phone ban, and she has been looking through his Tumblr as well as his other social media to see if he really had violent intentions on Easter. SIL still believes nephew that he only came to talk. In any case, he had his first therapy session with the new therapist this week. He has promised to stick with it, mostly because SIL said she would return his phone if he stuck with it long enough. Not sure how long enough is. The plus side of him being a man-child is that he is either unwilling to just buy himself a new phone with the little money he has, or he doesn't realize that he is an adult who can gain financial independence, so his mother can't threaten to take things away from him like he's a child in timeout. He has told his mom to tell us that he's very sorry for his behavior and that it won't happen again. I'm skeptical. Wife is still holding out hope, but refuses to see him unless he shows substantial improvement. BIL is looking into resources for places he can get nephew committed should that become necessary, but he believes that the situation is under control as long as SIL doesn't budge. They have also confiscated his sword and I don't think he has access to other weapons. I was also sent a link to nephew's Tumblr blog. SIL has already seen it on his phone but did not want to share its contents because she feels like we have villainized her baby enough. I went through his blog with my wife and didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or pour bleach into my eyeballs. His blog basically confirmed what you all have been trying to tell me about his pattern of violence and hatred for women. He posts a lot about how females are all entitled and how he hates ever having to interact with them. Additionally, he seems to be stalking one of his exes, which is a whole other layer of concerning. He also writes sexually explicit fan fiction about Muppets, which is not a safety concern, but has permanently ruined the entire show for me. Sorry this update isn't very exciting, but a lot of people expressed concern for my family and I's safety, so I am letting you all know the situation is being handled and everyone is okay. For those wondering about the plushie of Kermit, it has gone missing according to SIL and BIL. I hope it stays missing forever. Edit. People are messaging me saying that he is back to updating his Tumblr account, so that likely means SIL has gone back on her word. I'm going to call BIL and update him. Also he is still hiding the plushie somewhere because BIL was trying to throw it away and he can't find it anywhere. Sorry for the lack of updates, life has been a bit crazy. Wife and I went no contact with Nephew and SIL, which has been hard on wife because she has always been close with her sister. We have kept contact with BIL, keeping him updated if we saw anything concerning on his Tumblr account as many of you have kept me updated. And boy, did he post concerning shit. I'm not sure what the last straw was, possibly when he posted about cutting off part of his coworker's hair and getting fired as a result, but BIL decided he had enough of SIL's permissive parenting and Nephew's destructive behavior going ignored. BIL has been trying to be harsher on Nephew to straighten him out, but SIL throws such a tantrum every time he has tried, that he has decided he's had enough. A few days ago, he packed up and left. Now, it looks like he and SIL are going to get a divorce. He has been staying with us for a few days, going back once to make sure his horses were put in temporary boarding while he figures his shit out. He is also working on getting a lawyer. In other news, my nephew has run away from home. He is 22, so I don't know if this means he has finally gotten an apartment or what. All I know is a few hours ago, SIL called BIL in hysterics crying that he had left a note and that it was BIL's fault. I think that he may have gone to stay with some internet friends, but wife is getting worried as it is 3 a.m. and there is still no sign of him. Actually, I also kind of worried, but I'm trying to stay level-headed and not think of worst-case scenarios. Sorry if this is unclear and sounds rushed, but shit is still unfolding and this has been a lot to deal with. I will answer any questions y'all have once everything calms down a bit. Edit. Several hours after I made this post, police found Nephew in a small forest a few blocks away. He was hiding in the trees and I guess he was gonna try to live there. They returned him to his mom's house. I am exhausted. At this point, I am just using this account to rant about my insane nephew because venting to my wife just makes her sad about the person he has grown into, which I think is completely fair. So, the good news is that SIL has finally taken action. BIL has been keeping up with Nephew's posts online ever since he found BL's new apartment and, took a crap outside his front door. Long story and not super relevant to this current update. Point is, BL was monitoring the situation from a safe distance and was able to find proof that Nephew was becoming dangerous to himself/others, finally convincing SIL after some painful conversations and damning screenshots from his blog that something needed to be done. The screenshots in particular were a series of posts that Nephew made in which he challenged a random person online to a duel, giving an exact time and location as well as promising to bring his goddamn sword. Unfortunately, threatening to attack people with swords has become a behavioral pattern for him, so I can't even find it in me to be surprised. I am just so goddamn tired at this point. As some of you smart cookies may already know, telling a large amount of people on the internet your exact location is, drumroll please, stupid and dangerous. Especially with the threat of violence, which eventually expanded to him threatening to attack everyone and everything who challenged him at the location he specified. This was his mom's breaking point, so when Nephew asked SIL to drive him to his duel, she instead took him to their church. Yep. Not therapy. Not the police. An evangelical church. A different church than the one SIL goes to because he was banned from that one. Also a long story. He is once again on internet timeout and being forced to meet with the pastor once every week to bring him back to Jesus or whatever. So, at least something is being done. Is this at least a step in the right direction for SIL? I don't even know anymore. Edit. Someone messaged me saying he has a minor cult following as well, on another post that may involve his nephew. Hey, has the guy with the missing plush ever mentioned what kind of plush it was? Out of curiosity, I am pretty sure that no one is still invested in my petty family drama at this point, but Reddit was a good outlet the last time my nephew showed up to a holiday meal and completely ruined it, so to Reddit I return. Read my other posts if you are out of the loop, I guess. First of all, my son was born in early November, and his presence has been such an overwhelming joy in my wife and I's life. We had been so busy with him that we hadn't even thought about whether nephew would be at Thanksgiving until the days leading up to it. We called him Il, who was hosting, and she reassured us he was staying behind and that it was only going to be us and SIL's small Thanksgiving. Yeah, but MIL does not have a lot of family, so we always try to make it to her house when she hosts. BIL and nephew usually attend as well, but SIL and BIL are recently divorced and nephew is, well, a danger to society, to put it mildly. So we head over to her house early in the morning for a humble Thanksgiving of 5, myself, wife, son, SIL, and MIL, arriving first. MIL is cooing over her grandson and holding him when the doorbell rings. In steps SIL. And in steps nephew, not wearing Joker makeup this time or holding his special plushie, thank God. I am immediately out of my chair, ready to rain fire down and tell this man to get away from here before he has some kind of violent outburst around my newborn, when MIL cuts me off, asking nephew if there is anything he would like to say to my wife and I. Nephew approaches me with a very serious look in his eyes, bows at a 90-degree angle, and begins rattling off this insane apology, most of which is being directed at the floor. I really did not catch most of it, but my wife squeezed my hand and looked at me with tears in her eyes. I know you will call me stupid, Reddit. But my hormonal, recently pregnant wife was almost crying with how happy she was to see that nephew had grown as a person, and she had told me earlier in her pregnancy that she hoped our baby would be able to play with and look up to his older cousin. My wife has taken no contact with our nephew rather hard, as we looked after him a lot when he was little, and I cannot really blame her for folding immediately upon seeing him again. I accepted nephew's apology for his outburst earlier in the year and told him that all family is welcome at Thanksgiving. My wife hugged me and MIL started saying how excited she was to have both of her grandchildren with her. I kind of got the sense that MIL and SIL planned this behind our backs, but for the sake of the holiday, I was willing to let it go. Maybe he changed. The first hiccup was when MIL was in the kitchen taking the turkey out of the oven. SIL was holding our son and asked if nephew could hold him. Wife and I firmly said no, but agreed that he could say hi. Nephew leaned in close to get a good look at our newborn and began laughing like a psycho. Like, from completely silent to cackling maniacally. He startled my son into crying, and when I reprimanded him, he did not seem apologetic at all, and instead kept doing that weird laugh and saying I cannot contain the Joker. I admit I started to lose my cool at that point. I told him he needs to grow up and stop acting like a creep all the time, which seemed to really piss him off. He yelled that he is not a creep, and that he has changed a lot since I last saw him. He said that he found God, and that he is not a misogynist anymore because he claimed that men are just as vile and humanity is doomed, no matter the gender. I called him a mistake and he grabbed the turkey which MIL had just brought in during the commotion by the leg. Shrieking at the top of his lungs, nephew swung the turkey like a sledgehammer directly at my head. MIL stepped in to intervene, which caused the hot, oven-fresh turkey to slam wetly into her head. Silence, for just a moment. Then, the sizzling of my MIL's skin as the grease of the turkey, sticking to her face, made quick work of her epidermis, causing her to scream. I regret that I was completely stunned into inaction, but luckily my wife came to her senses quicker than I did, and it was now her turn to chase down my nephew much like how Bale had this past Easter. She was not as fast as him, given that she had given birth earlier that month, but her yells and threats scared him bad enough that he fled out the back door, SIL on his heels. She ended up driving him home, shooting us a nasty text saying my wife overreacted and that his outburst was my fault in the first place. Apparently we scared her beloved baby boy 22 years old so bad that he pissed himself. So I guess he's the real victim. Wife and I took MIL to urgent care, and she has insisted that no charges should be pressed against nephew even though her face is severely burned from the turkey grease and the impact of the swing gave her a concussion. She is not even mad at him and says he is just troubled and that everyone makes mistakes. I think our mistake was believing my wife and I can trust her family to stop inviting unstable people around our newborn. I don't want to cut MIL off because she is old and lonely, but I don't want her around our newborn because I do not trust that she will not invite nephew. That being said, I do not want to keep her away from her grandbaby. I know this was long and that no one is probably reading this, but if anyone has any advice for how to proceed, I really would appreciate it. TLDR, nephew threw a turkey at his grandma, who had lied and said she didn't invite him to Thanksgiving in the first place. Stories number 20. I 27F just found out my husband 28M saw his ex-girlfriend the night before he proposed to me. Is there any chance this is a completely innocent situation? I've sort of been going through it this week, and everyone in my life is telling me different things, so I thought I'd come on here and ask you guys. So my husband and I got married 3 months ago. We've been together for 3 years and now I just feel like everything has gone down the drain. We got into a fight a week ago over practically nothing. It was a stupid fight, we were both really stressed all day because of a personal issue, and it sort of just compounded right before we went to bed and we just started yelling at each other. As we were fighting, my husband just sort of yelled that ex-girlfriend's name was right and he shouldn't have rushed into marriage. I stopped dead in my tracks. It felt like a bucket of cold water had just been poured on top of me. He immediately stopped talking, it was so silent, my body was shaking. I ran out of the room and locked myself in the spare bedroom for the night. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen, and he looked like he hadn't slept a wink. I felt bad, momentarily, until I remembered what he said. He ended up confessing that the night before he proposed to me, he had gotten a text from his ex-girlfriend saying she needed to talk to him. He showed me his phone and there the text was. Her asking, practically begging, to see him, and him agreeing. He explained that she had just been broken up with, apparently this guy was horrible to her and she thought that my husband would be the only person to understand. And they had gotten to talking, and he had told her he was going to propose to me tomorrow, to which apparently she began asking questions about me, about our relationship, stuff he just began willingly divulging, and then she told him that he was rushing into marriage. According to him, although I have no way to validate any of this, he got up and left, and hasn't talked to her since. He reassured me that last night he was just stressed, he didn't mean it, and that there is not a day that goes by that he doesn't feel like the luckiest man in the world. He was crying, begging me not to leave him. Things have been tense ever since then. He seems to be overcompensating, or at least he's overdoing it because he feels like that's what I want. I don't know what I want. I don't even know how to begin to process this. TLDR. Husband admitted during a fight that he saw his ex the night before proposing. She told him he was rushing into marriage. He now says he regrets bringing it up and still wants our marriage. I feel totally blindsided and don't know what to do. Stories number 21. You owe it to your sister who's married and niece. I called my father this morning to see how they were all doing. Before he said good morning, he asked what the FUCK is, a dorm shower, and why are my in-laws asking for money and gifts. Background: my husband, children adult teens now, and I went no contact with my husband's entire immediate family and most extended relatives since 2016. That's 9+ years of not talking to, contacting, or having any type of relationship or interactions. We gave them over 20 years of chances and boundaries and consequences. That's to say it wasn't a rash decision that was made selfishly or thoughtlessly. Through the years they send us in the actual USPS mail because they're blocked everywhere else requests for gifts. You see, they like to create registries like you would for a bridal or baby shower and fill them with obscenely priced items for simple things like birthdays, Christmas, graduation, anniversaries, and every little I farted and therefore I deserve an expensive gift event. On to last week into today. I called my husband's aunt to catch up. She's the only one we're still in contact with and she gave me a heads up that my in-laws were trying to get her to pay. They used the term donate over $100,000, not a typo, for the golden granddaughter's dorm fees because we're family and we need to stick together and do our part, when the lady who is living a modest life and on Social Security said absolutely not. They then sent her an invitation via text to the dorm shower and husband's aunt said it was beyond ridiculous, not to mention the request for straight-up cash when she graduated. In the meanwhile, I'm getting texts and calls from old acquaintances and childhood friends. We all grew up in the same town and in-laws still live there, but we've moved about 4 hours away, saying that my in-laws are harassing them and trying to get a hold of our information because we changed our cell numbers and blocked them everywhere we digitally could. Last week in the mail I received an actual printed invite along with registry information, not one place, but 3 separate stores, and because we were curious, my whole family found it comical, took a peek. The cheapest thing on there was a pack of washcloths in the $60 range, followed by a power strip at $120, and the prices went up from there, including items in the $2,000 range. They even had commercial-type appliances which you can't even take in a dorm room. So, why are they even on there? Then the phone calls started rolling in which were sent to voicemail from phone numbers we aren't familiar with. MIL ended up leaving a message. Husband's name: this is your mom. Niece's name is going away for college and we need you to contribute $100,000 for her dorm. We also sent you, apparently the rest of us no longer exist, an invitation to her dorm shower and a picture from her graduation which had requests for straight up money without even hosting a party. Don't disappoint us because you owe it to your niece and sister. First of all, no to the fuckity and no. Second, niece's parents make more than $500,000 a year. They both work for the state, love to brag, and their salaries are posted. Found that out from Aunt. So, shouldn't they easily be able to afford their child's dorm necessities? Third, my husband and I have our own 2 children in university. One going into sophomore year and one going into junior year, and we never made any grand announcements, much less requests for money. They also chose to stay local in order to save money. Fourth, WTF are you trying to get money and gifts out of my parents and others' elderly relatives? Aren't there laws against swindling senior citizens? My husband dropped everything into the shredder and I erased the voicemail with full intent of remaining and maintaining no contact. In the last 2 hours, I've gotten 6 calls from numbers I don't know but area codes that are from their area with nobody leaving any messages. WTF. Just when you think you're out they try and pull you back into their fuckery. So fucking tired, and the nerve to do that. They didn't even bother asking about their biological grandchildren that they claim to love with all their hearts. Edit. I'm so sorry that I didn't explain it correctly. To be clear, it's 2 separate things. Request 1. $100,000 for dorm fees and boarding, so essentially rent and food. Request 2. Dorm shower, registering for gifts at specific stores that people are expected to buy for you off of a list produced/chosen by the graduate. Edit 2. How Mill got the number. We don't know. We did have a friend say that they gave out our address, which they had anyway. We have friends in my family that still live there, our hometown that we both, me and husband, grew up in. Many people go to the same church weekly and many of the in-laws attend. That's the most probable place. We still gave our new numbers to our friends and my family. MIL managed to get our new number and nobody has confessed to giving it to her. I'm also getting a lot of calls from random numbers I don't know and they're not leaving voicemails. That coincides with MIL calling. MIL as of right now has left a single message. Reverse directory on the other numbers doesn't give me information. Somehow at the very least MIL has gotten our number. We don't know if the other calls are related to MIL because they don't leave voicemails, but considering the uptick in calls and the message from MIL we think it's related to each other. Thank you to all who read this novel-length post, the advice, laughs, and the recommendations for Google Voice. It's been already implemented. No further voicemails at this time. I will update if anything pops off. TLDR, in-laws suck from top to bottom, inside and out, and all I want is for them to stop. Update and gossip. We are maintaining no contact, no gifts or donations of $100,000 because what they ultimately want is a reaction or contact. We refuse to fight, and we refuse to submit, therefore we ignore. Our silence is a clear message that they don't hold any value in our lives, and that drives them absolutely crazy. Google Voice has been set up and everything else is being blocked on the landline if they don't leave a message or aren't part of our contacts. Mill at this point has left a single message, but we've received at least 50 calls last time I counted from numbers that we don't know but we suspect are MIL's flying monkeys. I still don't understand why they're asking for $100,000 for dorm rent and food, because anyway I look at it, the math ain't matting. I spoke to my cousin, a lawyer not in my area, and gave her all the information and asked her if anything could be done. She reached out to a retired colleague who used to practice and now teaches, and they basically said to continue to ignore because legally, not much can be done. Annoying, but it is what it is. Now on to the gossip. My dad and uncles are part of the church board and have been for decades. They, the board, secretary, and clergy, get together every Monday and review the week ahead, deal with issues, and approve or reject anything that needs to be dealt with. Pretty standard stuff. The in-laws attend the church but aren't really active in terms of committees, fundraising, and activities planning. MIL has volunteered once at a bake sale in the 40-plus years of living in the community and attending this church. The church has a huge banquet room that includes a stage, bar area, and fountain. It's used for church functions, plays, bazaars, dinner, dances, parties, and can be rented out for a fee. Everyone pays some sort of fee. The fee has a complete breakdown of everything. There are 2 prices, one for stewards members that pay a yearly membership to the church and one for non-stewards, non-members, or anyone else who would like to rent the space. If you're a member then you get the rentals at cost, so the church doesn't really make anything extra on the rental. If you're not a member then there's an upcharge for using the space. MIL and SAL want to rent the space because they're anticipating 200+ people for the dorm shower. They filled in a request online that requires you to input your information, steward information about what the party is for, how many people, what vendors, if there will be liquor, and special requests. The board reviews it, and if they have questions they make follow-up calls. The secretary had MIL on speakerphone so that everyone could listen and ask questions if needed. They aren't current stewards. Last time they were stewards was when their kids were little. No judgment, just explaining. They used their steward number from decades ago and played stupid when the secretary said that they need to be current stewards in order to get the discount. They know this because they tried to pull the same crap for Sael's big bridal shower. She had a total of 5 as well as the christenings of her children. The church has to pull a variety of permits depending on what type of party you're having, insurance, plus security, liquor permits, custodians and a few other things I'm sure I'm forgetting. There's a pre-approved list of vendors that you need to choose from if you want to serve food or liquor, and they set their own prices separately from the church. If you want to rent the space, those are the rules and have been for over 30 years. If you follow the rules then it's pretty seamless, and I've used them plenty of times throughout the years without any issues. Mil then tried to negotiate the price because they have volunteered so much throughout the years. Once, you volunteered once. Then she tries to say that they're going to bring in their own food and liquor. Church said you have to use the pre-approved vendors or you can't serve food or beverages. Then Mil pivots and wants to charge a fee to enter and have a cash bar so she can use the space and, knowing her, upcharge to make a profit. The church explains that there would be additional paperwork and fees for that paperwork. Mil doesn't like that and says to just forget it. Under special requests, she wanted the choir to donate a performance, and at the end they wanted to do some sort of parade. My dad said that they were all just sitting there shaking their heads at the ridiculousness of Mil. The fact that the party is supposed to happen, supposedly, the first week of August, with the address on the original invite being Sael's house address. So 200 plus people are going to go into a residential neighborhood with limited parking for a dorm shower. I'm sure it'll be as classy as they are. Background: my in-laws, both Mil's and Fil's sides, are incredibly large, conservative, and really don't like progress or change. They believe in keeping people in their place and how things should be. They also operate like a hive. If one hates you then most of them will hate you and they will come after you with a Bible-thumping vengeance. Mil's wealthiest brother hasn't been heard from since the early 90s. A son who they discovered was gay. They disowned him. Same wealthy brother has another son who got secretly married to a woman who had a child from a previous relationship, and they disowned him as well because he married someone who had a child. Oh, the scandal and the irony. Mary, ringing any bells? I remember Mil was fully supporting her brother and his stupidity. As far as I know, the second son hasn't been seen or heard from since the mid-90s. All that to say they will not accept or open their hearts to anything that they disagree with, regardless of relationship or familial bond. Mil is her brother's biggest supporter or instigating enabler depending on how you look at it. Guests and registries. A longtime friend was invited to the dorm shower. She is a friend of mine and my husband's and an acquaintance of Sael and my in-laws. We all went to grade and high school together, and she shares the same culture and speaks the same language as my husband-in-laws. She was also one of the many people the in-laws harassed trying to get our phone numbers. She and a few other invitees were debating on going to the dorm shower, because on more than one occasion Sael and her family have shown up to their events empty-handed, with extra not invited people, and often without RSVPing. So they decided to return the favor by bringing uninvited guests, eating and drinking their fill, and only giving niece a dollar store not Hallmark card signed by all of them filled with nothing but their well wishes, which is still far more than what Sael had brought them to their traditional gift-giving events. Being the good and exceptionally thorough friend that she is, she said that more stuff had been added to the registries, some even at slightly lower price points but still very pricey in her opinion, like a $40 single spatula, and shockingly most of the stuff requested on the registry had been bought the last time she checked. I guess this dorm shower is now a thing. I just can't even wrap my mind around crap like that. Leading up to the party, they were scrambling, I'm guessing, to find tables, chairs, tents and catering. Everything is very last minute with them. Party rental places exist for exactly this reason. They even had the nerve to leave a message on my parents' answering machine asking if they could borrow their tables, chairs, and pop-up tents. My parents haven't had contact with any of you for over 8 years. So, no, you may not borrow their stuff. They couldn't be bothered to call and check on my mom when she was diagnosed with cancer and going through treatment, but for niece's party they remembered their phone number. Priorities, I guess. Did I mention? My parents ignored them. My dad also started very intentional timing, doing some minor repairs on the church hall, as well as setting up the HVAC cleaning, carpet cleaning, and dance floor polishing during and after the week of niece's party. The church hall will be unavailable till mid-August. Catering. My brother has been in the restaurant business for over 30 years. He currently owns a few food trucks that have a popular following as well as a catering/commercial kitchen. I don't think my in-laws know about my brother owning the food trucks business because they left a message and wanted to inquire about them for a party without mentioning him directly. Knowing them, if they knew, they'd try and get it for free because family. Mil has a very distinct voice, there is no mistaking it, and my brother knew right away it was her. Just to paint a picture of Mil, do you remember Herman Munster from the show The Munsters? Picture a tall, permanently surprised looking bad plastic surgery probably used a coupon, female version with the same hairstyle of Herman Munster who acts and talks like a ditzy helpless confused baby while using a weird baby voice and tries to manipulate everyone around her. She has a master's degree in education. My brother is not only uncle to my children but he's also their godfather. He's very protective of them and is fully aware of the fuckery we've been put through. So my brother calls me and asks me, what do I want him to do? I tell him to do whatever he wants. I'm not going to take money out of his pocket, but I warn him that she will delay paying the bill and complain constantly. Oh, make sure she pays up front before you remove a single tray from the truck, and she specifically signs verifying full delivery so she doesn't pretend she was shorted. Food pictures and video would be a must, and as a bonus, I would get a peek at the dorm shower. What? I'm curious and reporting for Reddit. Totally justifiable. My brother had his partner return the call on speaker phone and I'm muted but listening in on my brother's phone. MIL wants the food trucks to show up at SIL's house, park on the street or the lawn and have the invited guests buy their food. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with a plan like that? Surely all the other people living on the block would be thrilled to have their neighborhood packed with people, noise, and overrun by cars and food trucks in a very limited parking area on a weekend with no prior warning. Not to mention, they're throwing a party with the expectation of expensive gifts and they can't be bothered to actually properly host. I can't even begin to understand how to tell your invited guests that they need to buy their own food at your party. Like, thanks for the $400 coffee maker that you purchased for a completely made-up dorm shower, and if you're hungry, you can buy yourself a kebab dinner from the food truck on the corner for $15, drinks sold separately. Don't forget to tip because I don't want it to look like I invited a bunch of cheapskates to my party. Okie dokie. Super terrific plan there, Sparky. Idiots. My brother's partner says they can't do that, but they could cater and drop off pans of food either all at once or in intervals depending on the size of the order. The partner asks about how many people, what they're looking at in terms of menu, if they want them to provide cutlery and plates, basic stuff. By the way, when they were trying to book the church last post they said over 200 people were expected. They only wanted to order enough food for 50 people. So what's the plan if everyone you invited shows up? Do you make them wrestle for their dinner? Last man standing gets a drumstick. Do you go around taking food off of people's plates? How do they make this make sense in their brains, and how can they not be embarrassed? I would be mortified. For real, what's the fucking plan? This type of stupidity makes my brain twitch. Moving on. They go over the terms, deposit amount, remainder due prior to them unloading and delivering the food. And just for funsies he quoted them a price 25% more than what he would typically charge. MIL balks at the fact that they expect deposit upon signing the contract and payment before they hand over the prepared catered food she wanted to be billed after the fact. Lady and I use that term loosely. You have a reputation and they know you're an entitled grifting mooching clown because I told them and I've seen your scam in action, so yeah, you need to pay in full. My brother made sure to call his many friends in the business, give MILs and SILs names and warn them to get payment up front, upcharge because they're going to demand a discount, and to expect issues if they cater to them. MIL said she'll call them back. She didn't. I wonder why. Change of location. According to both my friend and my husband's aunt, a few days before the party was supposed to happen, they sent out a text update on the location. Due to everyone wanting to support and celebrate niece, we are moving the location to Forest Preserve. Enter off of street name and follow the signs and balloons. My friend made a comment about them actually having some common sense for once, and at least there will be plenty of parking. Not a horrible plan until it was. Day of party. This is what my friend told me. I wasn't actually there. I took notes as we were talking. Party was supposed to start at around 3 p.m. and go until sundown when the preserve closes. My friend arrives at around 4-ish. She sees tents, tables, chairs, smells barbecue, music is bumping, tons of people, porta potties available and discreetly off to the side. It's so unexpectedly classy and put together, she's legitimately impressed. She parks, and starts walking towards the party area. Too bad that's not the dorm shower party. She realizes her mistake and finally finds the dorm shower. As she's walking into the actual dorm shower area, she sees other friends already leaving. They say hi/bye and everyone keeps it rolling. She said that it looked like niece's dorm shower was set up with all the stuff that the other party rejected. There are multiple mismatched tables set up for the gifts and cards. What looked like a younger teen/tween acting as a DJ and playing a variety of music that you could barely hear, both cultural and American, on a Bluetooth speaker. There is one much smaller uneven square table set up with a few bowls of uncovered chips and pretzels being circled by flies and gnats, plastic cups, napkins, and nothing else. My friend said that it looked like some people went out and bought their own food, McDonald's and Taco Bell, and were eating as she went around to say hello, but no actual buffet or barbecue or any type of indication that they would be setting up for one. There were multiple kegs sitting under a tree in buckets of ice. There was no covered enclosures, tables, or available chairs. No bathrooms available except for the porta potties that had been rented and paid for by the other group, and apparently they made it crystal clear that they weren't going to share. My friend had gone to the party straight after work and was told to go elsewhere. My friend said that it looked like SAL just brought some chairs from her home for the older relatives and everyone else was either standing or sitting directly on the grass. Yup, sounds about right. No real food, no coverage from the blazing sun, no place to sit, no place to piss, but plenty of booze. Hydration is important, especially for the teens, and a place to collect presents. My friend didn't see nor was she offered any other food or drinks when she arrived. The in-law clan was there in full force and people had come in for this event. My friend said there was a decently large turnout. She didn't do an actual head count but thought it was about 150 people more or less, with people coming and going of family, adult/parent friends, lots of school friends, and it looked like niece got a ton of gifts. My friend was waiting on the rest of her friends to make an appearance, say their hellos, and then they were going to probably leave because there wasn't food and they're not huge into drinking. In the meantime, SIL's husband shows up with the cake. They cut the cake and place teeny tiny 1-bite squares on napkins and hand those out. Nobody is getting diabetes on their watch. Then my in-laws grab a megaphone and made a speech of how proud they are yada yada. Then niece's parents made a speech and told her how proud they are yada yada, deserved the world yada yada, and that they bought her a house. Y'all, they bought her a fucking house. I think we just solved the mystery request for $100,000 in dorm fees and the luxurious dorm shower registry. And some of you called it. Don't I feel stupid now? I worked and actually earned every property I've ever owned. I didn't realize that all I had to do was call multiple people up, lie and ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars, tell them that I would be disappointed if they didn't cough up their life savings and they owed it to me. Well, live and learn. I'll be sure to pass that bit of genius mixed with entitlement and a little spattering of narcissistic extortion onto my own children. Seriously, WTF. Plus, on what planet is getting money from other people and buying your kid a house? You buying them a house? According to my friend, multiple people are recording this. Pretty sure video of this is circulating somewhere. Niece didn't seem surprised about the house, and they now want niece to make a speech. Niece says some stuff about her life and future, thanked everyone for coming, and she wants to introduce the love of her life, her girlfriend, and she proceeded to hug and kiss her girlfriend in front of everyone. My friend said that my in-laws and the clan just sat there silent. She said they looked frozen while the school friends and some other guests clapped and cheered. Then something started happening with the clan, and MIL's rich brother got up along with his wife and adult children. They snatched stuff off the gift table and he started yelling at MIL in a mix of English and their native language, that he wants his money or all his money back, or he's going to take the house or houses. My friend was trying to make it look like she wasn't paying attention, but she totally was. Something about him being a fool or being made a fool, and something about lying. My friend caught parts of the conversation. Then in their native language he was saying something about using a vulgar descriptive slur word in their language. The lesbians were coming over and over as they were heading away from the party directly in front of my friend on their way towards the parking lot. I guess MIL got her parade of idiots after all. My friend is telling me what went down, and all I could think about was Paul Revere's Midnight Ride, which shouldn't be funny, but I could just picture a sour-faced miserable old man grabbing gifts away from the table and warning anyone who would listen that the lesbians were coming. My friend said that Mill and SIL went chasing after him, but friend couldn't hear what was being said. It looked like uncle's son was also yelling at MIL and SIL. There was lots of yelling and pointing going on. The rest of the clan looked to be leaving. Some took their gifts back while others just left. The other guests were just standing around awkwardly, not really knowing what to do. Niece and her girlfriend just went back to their group of friends. My friend said that niece didn't seem to care about what happened. She wasn't crying or visibly upset. My friend has no idea where Phil and niece's dad went. She didn't see them again after they gave their speeches. My friend was like, WTF just happened? She went to her car and called the group she was waiting on not to come, drove home, and called me with a full report. TLDR, to be clear, my perspective is, love is love. Niece is living her truth and good for her. MIL, however, instigated and supported her brother cutting off his own children, and now her money train is pissed, and I'm guessing there will be hell to pay. I don't think niece's parents or my in-laws knew that niece is a lesbian, because I don't think they'd want it advertised, and I don't think they would have thrown a party that included very conservative relatives who they had gotten money from if they knew. Aunt. I called my husband's aunt and filled her in on what went down. She hadn't heard anything yet, but she said that MIL's brother and his son are control freaks that you don't want to piss off. Aunt wasn't surprised at their reactions. Context for the comment below. Aunt is a staunch LGBTQ+ supporter. Her sibling and two of her children identify as part of the LGBTQ+ community. This comment stems from a conversation she had with uncle/in-laws in the 90s. Take it as pure sarcasm. This conversation is one of the many reasons why her family went very low superficial contact with the in-laws. Aunt's husband Emil's other brother refused to go completely no contact. Direct quote from Aunt, and picture it being said in a very New York accent. Aunt in a very serious voice trying to suppress her laughter said that he must been so scared that young lesbians are stronger and more powerful than the regular ones, he must thunk that they were gonna wrap him and his precious family up in flannel, take to Home Depot and teach how to build something, not for nothing, that's how they get you, you know. And before you know it, yous, the gay, I told her about this post and sent her a link. Aunt also married into this hot mess, is a quick-witted hoot and has been living with this stupidity for way longer than I have. She gets it. Love you auntie. You're now on the Reddit. Aunt has promised a full report if she hears anything. She couldn't stop laughing over, the lesbians are coming, she said. I bets they are. Stories number 22. My GF27F expressed that going forward she doesn't want to give me 28M head. What's next? So this is a pretty ridiculous situation, so I'm coming here for advice. I 28M have been dating Kathy 27F for 6 months, and honestly up until now things have been going pretty good. Kathy works as a paralegal and I work in aircraft maintenance. We met on Hinge 6 months ago, and at first she wanted to wait a month and until we were exclusive, until we were intimate, and I was cool with that. Once we started being intimate things were good, and I felt that as we got more comfortable with each other, the better things got. I always took time for foreplay and to warm her up before anyone asks. Dates have gone great and we mostly agree on life goals. I have tried suggesting some more exploratory things sexually, but she has shot them down, and that's alright. The other day, we were getting into it after I took her to the melting pot, and after going down on her I asked her to go down on me. She reluctantly refused. I, not wanting to make things awkward, just went on with it and we finished the encounter normally. I asked her what was up afterward, and she said that she thinks she doesn't really like giving head. I asked if it was my hygiene or anything. She said no, it's just that she doesn't really find it enjoyable and it hurts her throat. While I understand her reasoning, this is kinda a bummer for me since I like receiving it. I also don't particularly like giving it, but I do it to make my partner happy. This morning, we woke up and started going at it. She asked me to taste her, and I said that she had a point. I also don't like giving oral, so I think we should just not. She said I was punishing her for her preference. That led to a small fight this morning where no hanky ended up getting done, lol. What would y'all do in this situation? Stories number 23. Aita for blowing up at my bridesmaid for protecting her husband, who was arrested for contacting minors. I 29F got married in May 2025 after spending over a year planning and pouring everything I had into this wedding emotionally, mentally, and financially. We paid for everything ourselves, no help. Everyone did really help in other ways, from handmade invites to the decorations to the food. I did it all. I genuinely put my heart into making it special, but now all I can remember is the dark cloud hanging over everything, because of Ken. Ken is the husband of one of my bridesmaids, Lola 27F, who I've been friends with for 6 years. We met through my maid of honor Cynthia, my friend of 14 years. The three of us got very close, and both Cynthia and Lola were in my bridal party. Ken has always been awful to Lola, emotionally, financially, and mentally abusive. I've spoken out about this many times, but I was always made out to be the dramatic or too much friend. Ken always managed to play the victim. Even though it strained our friendship, I never gave up on our friendship. She's been talking about divorce for years. Then, 3 days before the wedding, Ken was arrested for inappropriate contact with minors over an app. None of us knew he'd been under investigation for a year. My friend's life went into crisis. My friend group really rallied around her. I was able to scrape by without as much help. Which I totally understand. And I wanted her to be with as many people as she could to help her through this situation. The night before the wedding, after the rehearsal. The first time we were really able to talk because I couldn't stop what I was doing for the wedding. Lola told me she had to protect Ken and wouldn't file for separation or any legal paperwork until the trial was over because it would look bad if she left now. I lost it. I told her I couldn't believe she was defending someone who had just been arrested for predatory behavior. She insisted on staying loyal, and after that conversation, she chose not to come to the wedding. This probably wasn't my place. Mind you, I was getting married the next day and was under so much stress, and this was just too much for me. Having been a survivor from child abuse, it's like my whole childhood was shadowed over by an abuser, and now on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life has also shadowed me again. It broke my heart. I sacrificed over a year of time, money, and energy for this wedding. My friends and family were amazing, and I don't regret the process, and I'm so elated to be married, but Ken cast a shadow over the whole day. 2 months later, she's still living with Ken and their 2 kids. She says she plans to leave him after the trial, which could take a year. But from what I'm hearing, Ken is suddenly doing everything she's been begging for the past 4 years. I'm not holding my breath. Now here's the issue: we've had an annual summer camping trip for the last 6 years with our friend group and all of our kids. Lola told a mutual friend she plans to come and wants to bring Ken, saying he can just stay in another area. My friend immediately said absolutely not. And I agree, there are multiple families with strong feelings about this. I will not allow a man who was arrested for contacting minors to be anywhere near our kids. Lola is now saying I'm being harsh and unforgiving, and that I owe her an apology for what I said the night before the wedding. From my perspective, she hasn't filed for separation or even taken real steps to protect her own kids. She's still defending Ken and expecting the rest of us to go along with it. I refuse. I will not apologize. And I absolutely won't allow him at an event involving children. Aita for refusing to apologize and banning her husband from the trip. None of us knew about the investigation. The arrest came out of nowhere 3 days before my wedding. I didn't uninvite Lola. She chose not to attend after I confronted her about defending Ken. I spent over a year of time, money, and emotional energy on this wedding. Ken overshadowed it all. Cynthia, maid of honor, is 100% on my side and said she won't go camping if Ken is there. This trip involves multiple families with children. Their safety is not negotiable. Edit, update, clarification. First, thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. It's been incredibly validating to hear that others understand how serious and heartbreaking this situation is. I realize now that my original post may have put too much focus on the wedding, when that was really just background. This was my first ever Reddit post. The real issue, the one that continues to affect all of us, is the deep and lasting harm this has caused, especially to the kids and to Ken's victims. Our friend group is more than just friends, we are family. So when something like this happens, it shakes everything. The kids, all teenagers who've grown up together, are now trying to process the fact that someone they trusted turned out to be dangerous. Now they're seeing his face in news articles and hearing his name online. It's painful, confusing, and scary. This will stay with them. They've been clear, they don't want to be around him, and we would never allow it. My husband actually voiced concerns about Ken long before any of this came out. He said he never felt right about him and made it a rule that our kids were never alone with him. I'm grateful we trusted his instincts. And then there's Lola. She's been with Ken since they were teens. Married for 9 years. This is all she's ever known. What she's gone through behind closed doors is hard to fully understand, but it is clear she's experienced years of manipulation, isolation, and emotional abuse. She's not seeing things clearly right now, likely because she can't. I think she's in survival mode. And it's gut-wrenching to watch someone you care about cling to someone who's hurt them. This has broken a lot of bonds. It's left a lot of us grieving not just a friendship, but a sense of safety, trust, and stability. Most of all, we're doing everything we can to protect the kids because they're the ones caught in the middle of all this, and they never asked for any of it. This isn't something we'll move on from quickly. It's something we'll be working through and healing from for a long time. I hope this clarifies my feelings. I will keep everyone updated. I'm remaining low to no contact. I hope I did all this right. Well, hold on to your baggage, the next stop at Confrontation Station has arrived in Crazy Town. I'm sure someone has said this before, it just fits. For context, we're part of a larger friend group I hadn't mentioned before because, until now, they weren't relevant to the story. But here we are. About a week ago, my husband reshared a post on SM expressing strong concerns about Ken. After learning that Ken had gone camping with Lola, their kids, and his parents, he used intense language, warning others online about him. The court order clearly states Ken can be around his own children only when supervised by their mother, and that he's prohibited from having contact with other children. A public campground is obviously full of kids, he shouldn't have been there. I won't speculate on the sleeping arrangements, but, yeah, this triggered a ripple effect within our friend group, a private Snap thread I'm not a part of. And honestly, that's fine. People are entitled to their own opinions and feelings. If they're not shared with me, I'm cool with that. I've always stood by that belief. One evening, I was hanging out at Cynthia's place, genuinely excited to spend time with her. Toward the end of the night, another friend came by, also someone I was happy to see. She didn't return the enthusiasm. Apparently, she disagreed with the wording of my husband's post and felt strongly enough to confront me. She accused me of spreading misinformation since Ken hasn't been found guilty yet. Now, I have a few thoughts on that. I have no control over what my husband posts. When in fact I didn't even know he posted it till the next day. I do not check social media every day. Later he took it down. Imagine my husband trying to monitor me and what I do. My entire friend group would call him controlling. Everyone up till now loves him. So, she wants me to be like that with him. That's a double standard I will not bring into my life. Period. The trial could stretch on for a year or more. Our county has a history of handing out signature bonds and low cash bails to individuals accused of horrifying things. You can get into more trouble here for walking around with a beer than for having inappropriate contact with a child. That's the reality. He will most likely get probation and have to register. She insisted Ken would never do what he's accused of, and I don't know the whole story. My thought. I don't need to know the whole story to distance myself and my family away from this situation. If Lola chooses to stay with him, that means her too. The investigators seem confident enough to move forward with charges. They obviously have a case. Based on what I've been told, there are photos with his face clearly shown. I know how underreported these kinds of cases can be. Think about it, most people speed daily but only get ticketed once or twice in their lives. Just because something isn't documented every time doesn't mean it's not happening, and even if the situation involved a 17-year-old, it's still a child. Ken is a grown man with a wife and 2 kids. So, I'm really not trying to hear that. I wasn't able to say any of this BTW. She just screamed as loud as she could, drowning out everything I tried to say. So, any advice? Am I wrong? I had like 2 people read over this so I could make sure this is as accurate as it can be. It's hard to include everything. I have a feeling I'm about to lose my friend group. And I'm good with that. If I'm standing up for what's right. You know that saying how it isn't always easy to stand up for what's right. This is the first time it's really been hard, not because I'm questioning my moral compass but because I'm following it north. I'm also wondering how much I will lose because of this hill I'm willing to die on. It seems everyone doesn't want to say anything because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or rock the boat. So, I ask again. Aita. Stories number 24. My girlfriend won't let me work in NIC. What to do? So I met my girlfriend at a restaurant in Dallas. We hit it off pretty quick. We hung out for a while and I started taking her out on dates. She told me she actually lives in Florida and came here for the summer. I was pretty bummed, but we decided to try long distance till she could visit again, so now we have been talking for a while, but pretty recently I have been getting more hours at work so we have less time to call and text. I communicated this to her and she said that's fine, but now she is blowing my phone up asking to call and I have to get my phone out and tell her to stop in the middle of my shift. No devices allowed on shift. She's been doing this every day, almost 15 times a day. I confronted her last week and she began calling me a cheater and that all her friends think I'm cheating, and if I don't text her on shift we are over. So naturally I explain that I can't do that and she begins pounding me with all these questions and accusations. I eventually got her to calm down and we move on, then it happens again, and again, and again, and I don't know what to do. I love her very much and I want to help her through this. Update. I spoke to her after reading a few of these comments. She went absolutely insane. She started screaming and crying, begging me to forgive her. I said that I'm sorry but it's not gonna work. She then told me that if I break up with her she will kill herself. For those who don't know, my first girlfriend hung herself. So I take these things very seriously and she knows it. Not sure if she's just trying to get under my skin, or if she's for real. I'm almost positive I should move on, but I want to hear other opinions. I'm not stupid for any of those thinking I'm 12. I'm 18. Stories number 25. Aita for demanding my friend pay me fuel money after I had to drive 3 hours back to the hotel because he left stuff there. Okay guys, so I live in East Yorkshire, England. And we went on a trip to South Wales for a couple of days, which is a 5.5-hour drive from where I live. This is a friend I have known for a very long time. He was actually supposed to drive and agreed to because I am not comfortable driving long distances like that. But he hurt his foot at the gym the day before, and I basically had no choice but to drive. Anyway, it was all fine. We got there and had a good time. But the problem came when we left. My friend booked the hotel we stayed at, and he was the one who signed in and out, so over halfway home 3 hours of driving. He realized he left a bunch of his stuff at the hotel. His wallet, house keys, and his own car keys. He freaked out and begged me to go back. No one else would be in his house, and he needed his car to go to work on Monday. I was very frustrated by this, of course. It messed up my own plans and meant adding 6 hours more to the drive in total. Which was exhausting. Keep in mind this is driving in England, nothing like the nice open American roads. I probably did say some mean things in frustration. But I relented and did it. I drove back and we got his stuff. And after a horrible drive, we got home. Realizing that I had to spend £70 on fuel because of the extra 6 hours. And I told him in no uncertain terms, I expect him to give me the money. To me, that is completely fair. He disagreed. Couldn't believe I was even asking, that's what friends do, he exclaimed. He shouted and argued and he stormed off. But I am not backing down. Mutual friends are now messaging me, saying I am Aita. Stories number 26. Wibta if I report my coworker to HR for constantly making racist jokes about me being Indian. There's this girl at work, Melissa, who made a comment the first time I brought curry for lunch, something like, "Whoa, that's strong," with this scrunched up face. Whatever. I let it slide. I even laughed it off and said, yeah, it's got a kick. I'm not pressed over someone being surprised by spice. But then she made it a thing. Every time I heat up food, she goes, oh, curry alert, or waves her hand like she's being gassed. I said I was cool with one comment, not a fucking running joke. Then came the real BS. She made some offhand crack about how, you guys are used to dirtier places anyway, right, when I mentioned a street market I liked back home. I paused. Looked at her. Asked her to repeat it. And she just laughed, like I was too sensitive. Nah. I'm done being polite. I'm not your spicy food friend or your go-to for passive racist jokes you think you can get away with because I smiled the first time. One more word and I'm lighting her up in the group chat, in HR, in the damn parking lot if I have to. Stories number 27. How do I explain to my son that my husband and I are okay with him being gay when we don't know for sure if he's accepted himself? Hello all. Just to be clear, my husband 50M and I 47F are not homophobic in any way, we're simply unsure of the correct way to approach our son about this. This all started a year ago when my now 15 son had just turned 14. It was summertime and my son was enrolled in a lacrosse camp. One day he comes back from camp and tells me he met a boy from another team named Marcus, fake name. My husband and I are excited to hear that he's making friends. I suggest that he should invite Marcus over one day. My son seems happy to hear this and they start to hang out a lot over the summer. Now we're about a month into the summer and I'm cleaning out my son's room while he's at camp and I notice that his computer is open and unlocked on his desk. I try my best not to be a snoopy mother, but since it was just sitting there, I thought I might just take a look and make sure he's being safe. We had just recently given him some social apps, such as Pinterest, Instagram, and Snapchat. I just wanted to check to make sure he wasn't doing anything that could be possibly dangerous. The first thing I see when I open up Safari is 3 tabs. One is to an article about a bunch of pride flags, one is to a quiz to determine your gaydar, still not sure what that is, and the third is a YouTube video about some YouTuber's journey coming out of the closet. At first, I was pretty confused and unsure what this meant. I called my husband into the room and showed him the tabs. He just sighed and brushed it off. My husband then explained to me that he did the same thing when he was a boy. It seems that many teenagers will experiment around this age to try and figure out things about themselves. So both of us just brushed it off as normal teenage behavior. Well, next thing we know, Marcus and my son are hanging out almost every other day. If they're not hanging out together, they're texting or calling. I mentioned to my husband that I feel like our son and Marcus have grown very close in a short period of time. He agrees with me, but also notes that it's perfectly healthy and they're both good kids so we should give them time to hang out and have fun. I 100% agree with this, but I've always been a bit protective of my son and I just want to make sure that he and Marcus aren't going to have a bad fallout that leaves him super upset. So both of us are giving them space to hang out and have fun this summer. But I'm making sure to keep a bit of an eye on them. The first time I noticed that my son and Marcus may be dating was when I came downstairs into our kitchen one night when they were having a sleepover to find them cuddling on the couch. Marcus had his head on my son's chest, and my son had his legs wrapped around Marcus's torso. This wasn't just some kind of position where it might have looked like they were sitting close to each other. They were very obviously cuddling and even holding hands. I quietly returned to my room and explained to my husband what I saw. My husband agreed with me and noticed that our son and Marcus had been getting very close lately. Neither of us were very surprised to find this as we kind of expected it. We decided to let it play out quietly and see if they would come to us first. We had no clue how long they had been hiding this relationship or if they were even officially dating yet. Now they are both 15 and it's been about a year since they met each other. They still haven't come to us to talk, and I don't know Marcus's parents' stance on this topic, so I don't want to bring it up to them and potentially cause Marcus any trouble at home. Now my husband and I are pretty sure they're dating, as we've seen them cuddling multiple times and even caught them kissing once when they thought they weren't being watched. Neither my husband or I are opposed to our son being gay or to our son having a boyfriend-girlfriend, but I'd really like him to come to us and tell us first, even if I have to go to them and talk privately with Marcus and my son. I'd rather do that sooner than later and have this conversation with them so they can understand we accept and love them. I also feel like we're intruding on their privacy and they would have more freedom and privacy if they could tell us. Any advice would help, thank you. Update: how do I explain to my son that my husband and I are okay with him being gay when we don't know for sure if he's accepted himself? I read as many of your comments as I could and sat down with my husband to talk about what to do. We ended up just quietly bringing up to my son in the middle of lunch conversation that I had a friend who had just started dating his boyfriend and wanted us all to meet him. True information, I was told this a few weeks ago. This family friend is a classmate from college that my husband and son know well. My husband made a few comments about how happy he was for said friend. Our son made a few nice comments but didn't say much for the rest of dinner. About an hour ago, my son came forward to me and my husband and explained that he thought he might be gay or bisexual and he wasn't sure. He explained to me that Marcus's parents were pretty homophobic, so after hearing Marcus's fears about coming out to his parents, my son got scared as well. He and Marcus are not officially dating because they weren't quite sure what to do or how to move forward. I came clean to my son that I happened to see his computer and saw him multiple times with Marcus. My son was understandably upset at first but said that he was glad I made the subtle comment at lunch as it gave him a way to open up to me. I explained to him that if he's comfortable, and Marcus is comfortable, we should have a conversation with Marcus to try and figure out how to help Marcus talk to his parents about this issue. Stories number 28. Aita for not finishing food that my dad bought me at a diner. I went out to eat with my family. My dad was paying. I ordered a main course, but also felt like I was in the mood for a side dish, so I ordered it as well. My eyes were bigger than my stomach, because I was unable to finish my food. I asked for a to-go box. This pissed my dad off. When we were next alone together, like 15 minutes later, my dad got snipping with me and gave me a lecture about how what I had done was rude, that when someone else is paying for your meal you shouldn't order extra stuff if you won't be able to finish. I think he meant well and was trying to teach me a lesson. But he spoke to me very impatiently with me and snipping with me, and me got into an argument and I offered to pay him back if it bothered him so much, and he said I was missing the point. I understand what he was saying, but I didn't think it was that absurd to get a to-go box. Was I an asshole? Stories number 29. To fool by thinking a girl was flirting with me, turns out she was trying to sell me insurance. Today I fed up by mistaking a very friendly insurance agent for someone who was into me. So a few weeks ago, I was at a coffee shop just minding my own business when this girl approached me. She was super friendly, asked if she could sit at my table. It was a crowded place, and we ended up talking for a while. She was laughing at my jokes, complimented my watch, even said something like, "You have a really calm energy. It's refreshing." My brain, this is it. This is how Netflix romances begin. We exchanged numbers, or rather, she took mine and said she'd love to catch up again soon. The next day, she texts me, "Hey. So nice chatting yesterday, let's connect sometime this week." I'm already planning what shirt I'll wear. We set up a catch-up at a quiet loungewear place. I show up, slightly overdressed. She's already seated with a laptop, folder, and what I now realize was not a flirty smile, it was a sales smile. She starts the convo with, "So I don't know if you've ever considered a long-term investment plan that also protects your loved ones." I died a little inside. I sat there for 40 minutes while she pitched me life insurance like I was a 50-year-old family man with mortgage anxiety. The compliments. Rapport building. The number exchange. Lead capture. The refreshing calm energy. Probably code for, "This guy looks too polite to leave mid-pitch." To make it worse, I nodded through the whole thing like I was still trying to impress her. TLDR, thought I was being flirted with by a girl at a cafe. Turned out she was just a very charming insurance agent. I went to what I thought was a date, and got pitched life insurance instead. Stories number 30. To fool my son begged me to volunteer for his soccer football league. I got picked as a head coach. I don't play soccer, never have. What was I thinking? I played football, American, basketball, tennis, and I was on the swim team in high school. I'm familiar with sports, but I never played soccer. My son loves the game and has played for several seasons now, but this year the league had a big shortage on volunteers and my son begged and begged me to sign up, so I did, thinking I would be an assistant coach or something, but no, they gave me a team. I don't watch competitive soccer on TV. I'm personally not that big into the sport. All my time is spent crying over the 49ers and the Kings. I have ordered the equivalent of coaching kids soccer for idiots, and I have less than 3 weeks to figure this out. TLDR, I don't know jack about coaching soccer. Son convinced me to volunteer, thought I would be an assistant or helper, got picked as a head coach in way over my head.